At a shooter's academy, a boy dressed as a bear, no guild, no reputation, and level 10, knocked on the door of the strongest musketeer master, asking to take the entrance test. The master simply couldn't care less about the kid, and slammed the door in his face. I mean, who would take seriously a kid dressed as a bear? But don't worry, you'll understand why soon. The boy came back insisting to get in, and said he would take any test. The old man looked at him and threw the hardest test right away, hit 100 targets in 10 seconds. Ronero, or maybe Bells of Notre Dame, went to the weapons room and picked a special gun for him. Since they wanted the kid to fail, they handed him a gun with a completely broken sight. The boy took one look at it, aimed with the broken gun anyway, and fired a shot that grazed Quasimodo's skull. The master was in shock, not understanding what he was doing, and asked for the gun back, canceling his test. But the kid aimed at the targets with the messed up sight, calculating everything in his head, and hit every single one in less than 10 seconds. The old man was stunned because what the boy did was impossible, especially with that broken sight. The truth is, he's not just any noob. He used to dominate the entire game, killing bosses nobody had ever gotten close to, and reaching level 559. This is Ted. He soloed the dungeon of the Hellfire Mountain, and crushed the level 650 boss, which is way above his level. He was breaking every record, using nothing but his musket. The hype was so massive that one of the biggest guilds in the game sent him an invite. But he discovered something dirty about the two biggest guilds inside the boss cores he had killed. They were taming the bosses, which was 100% against the rules. The problem is that everyone found out because Ted defeated those creatures and leaked the videos online. Without meaning to, he poked a giant hornet's nest, and they knew it. Ted was cornered by the top players in the world, and was given an ultimatum to delete his account in 1 week or things would go very bad for everyone around him. Ted had been playing that character for over 10 years, and losing the account was like losing an arm. He tried asking other guilds for help, but nothing worked because they had cast a curse on him that he couldn't break. With nowhere to run, he decided to delete the account anyway. But before that, he wanted to try something. He opened a live stream and went to an NPC blacksmith with his super rare musket, the black and white, a weapon almost nobody had. The plan was kind of dumb: force an upgrade to break the weapon for good so he could delete the account with no regrets. Since the success chance was only 10%, it was basically guaranteed the weapon was gone. The NPC scratches his head and congratulates him on successfully getting the enhancement. Tien is in disbelief at the success. When he picks up his weapon, Ted stammers while his followers debate whether he can manipulate luck and beg him not to end the stream. He tells the blacksmith to do it again, feeling almost physical pain from making that decision. His chat erupts in outrage and amazement. While crying, he gives up all hope, wishing the weapon would just break already. But all he hears is the blacksmith congratulating our MC on the successful result. He can't believe it either, wondering where his bad luck went. But to everyone's surprise, he succeeds for the third time in a row. While the blacksmith says our protagonist really is lucky, devastated by his luck or bad luck, he tries one more time. And of course he succeeds again. So without stopping crying, he asks the NPC to do it again. And when an enormous glow fills the whole place indicating success, he gets irritated, thinking what the point of being lucky now would be. Tien holds his powerful +7 weapon in his hands, while listening to the blacksmith say that, thanks to his luck, he can perceive many things and do the best work of his life. Stunned, he realizes the weapon is as much as 300% stronger than before, and that its value could easily reach billions. But he knows that, even so, it still wouldn't be enough to escape the clutches of Alibaba and CGTV. He thinks back to the moment he was cursed, and knows the weapon wouldn't be enough. Another option he has is to sell it for around 10 billion. But what would be the point of getting that and then deleting the character, which by the way he invested 10 years of his life into? He considers whether he should really start over from level 1, and thinks that billions wouldn't make him feel any better. But what if he improved this item until it was enough to change his situation? He decides to end the stream, because if he succeeds, he could end up becoming a target. Determined, he hands the weapon to the NPC, and says he wants to do it once more. From inside the shop, a golden glow appears, and soon after, our MC is holding a badass +9 musket. He keeps sweating non-stop. So tense is he over this unexpected success. This powerful item becomes a strategic weapon, and the state may intervene to obtain the rights to it, or the major guilds may try to secure possession of it. There are only 8 weapons with a +9 bonus in the entire world, and they are worth more than 10 billion. Ted sweats thinking about that amount, and the fact that there is no +10 weapon known to the public, besides knowing of 4 that broke during the attempt. The game has a safety system that cuts off access if the person's heart rate gets too high. Our hero tries to think calmly, coming to the conclusion that Ted is his youth and that no money in the world would make him give it up. He asks himself how much would be enough to deal with the 2 guilds, and realizes +9 wouldn't be. He would need at least 32 times the weapon's power. So he takes a prohibited use potion, thinking that more important than money is himself and his character. He opens it. Ted drinks the Berserker potion in one gulp. This potion grants several physical buffs, but also some mental debuffs. He throws the vial to the ground, determined to succeed. He knows +18 is not enough, and what he seeks is plus 19. Our hero shouts for it to be done again, even startling the NPC with those crazy eyes. Grabbing the poor guy by the beard, he orders him to shut up and do it already. But in his defense, our MC is in a state of fury because of the potion. Caught up in all that emotion, the blacksmith shouts as he hammers that weapon and agrees with his brave client. After the hammer strike, a strong glow is emitted. That golden light fills the entire place. The NPC celebrates, saying it's unbelievable, but once again it's a success, while Ted can hardly believe it. A voice says it has finally found the one who sought it, just as it was found, while our Ted looks deeply moved. When an enchantment reaches plus 10, a contract is made with an entity from the game's lore. An entity appears with the proposal of forming a blood contract with our MC, suggesting that it is a once-in-a-lifetime chance. But to the entity's surprise, our hero slaps its hand away and shouts for it not to interrupt his enchantments. That creature doesn't understand and is surprised by the audacity of a mere human, while Ted simply asks the NPC to continue the enhancement. The entity gets irritated and shouts, repeatedly calling out to the human. When he reaches plus 11, another demon appears, introducing itself, but it seems our hero has no intention of stopping. His weapon reaches a plus 12 bonus, and the level 750 King of Beasts appears, but he couldn't care less and immediately enchants it again. Our guy keeps upgrading with one entity appearing after another and disappearing as he keeps advancing without stopping. Ted remains fired up. He tells the NPC to keep working, finally reaching plus 18 with complete success, and now only one more enhancement remains to reach his goal. In a rage and completely insane, he screams for the blacksmith to continue, and the NPC, obeying, says that this is now the final enchantment. But when he strikes that weapon with the hammer, it shatters completely. This brings our hero back to reality, which coincides with the end of his berserker potion. Ted is shocked that his weapon broke, but in truth, that was what he wanted. In any case, it was still a plus 18 weapon. Desperate, he asks for his item back. He cries and begs for his item back, saying he'll kill him. But the NPC simply gives thanks, saying that thanks to our boy, he was able to reach the pinnacle of a blacksmith's skill, and all of that thanks to his lucky benefactor. Tien is completely out of control and lunges at him, saying he shouldn't dare enjoy that happiness alone. But he stops midway, crying and asking how he dares do this after destroying his weapon. That blacksmith becomes Brahman, the god of blacksmiths, and Ted doesn't really understand what's going on there. The guy comments that he gained various abilities through the awakening. Our hero is quite surprised when he hears that he can repair an item that broke, and even granted a plus 1 bonus. But even he cannot do that recklessly, because resurrecting an item goes against the laws of nature, a realm known only to the gods. He says it's unlikely that such a miracle will happen again. Then he gives those broken weapon pieces one more hammer strike. And at last, the process is complete. A little shaken, our protagonist opens his menu to check. There, he confirms what the god of blacksmiths said. His weapon is now plus 19. Ted realizes that the attack and range have increased 30-fold, far more powerful than a bazooka from some other guild. He notices that it gained an ability to ignore 90% of defense, plus 6 slots, something he never even imagined a weapon could have. He cries with emotion at having been so lucky, and believes that with this weapon, he'll be able to deal with Alibaba and also CGTV, or even become number 1. But suddenly, a black tear appears in the sky, and our hero wonders what that is. As a huge eye opens, watching him, Ted asks what it is, surprised, and the god of blacksmiths explains that the engraved soul probably came to find him again. Some tentacles appear and begin to bind our protagonist. While he hears that someone wants to test his worth, he tries to argue, asking for a minute to explain. He tries to call Brahman for help, realizing that this seems to be a forced event, but all the kind NPC does is wish him good luck. Ted is incredulous, because that's not exactly the help he was expecting, and as he is carried away, he sees the god of blacksmiths giving him a little wave. Soon after, he finds himself in a dark space. He wonders what kind of place this is, then notices that a quest has appeared for him to receive an approval. He wonders if he needs approval to use a plus 19 weapon. As he remembers that sorcerer and determined and knowing there is no way back, he presses and confirms the quest. Shortly after, he begins to awaken and finds himself in a place above the clouds. He thinks he has never seen such an empty map, but then notices something strange. The ground of that map is made entirely of monster corpses. He realizes that place is the tomb of the Sky King, and he sees a figure very similar to himself appear. Besides that, it is the place where he obtained the hexagram. Ted is quite surprised, because that person really does look like him. That being says that whoever seeks the hexagram must ascend to the highest place, explains that the power is immense, and that he must fight there to prove his worth. Our hero doesn't really understand what's going on, and asks if all he needs to do is defeat this guy here. But he gets no answer, and the other guy who looks just like him is already right in front of him, preparing to fire. That entity takes aim at our hero, who merely watches without reacting. But right after the shot, that thing realizes it didn't hit anything, and Ted is right below him, while he hears the entity ask whether he has what it takes to challenge him. He realizes that the move the creature is using is one of his own movement skills. With that, he is sure that it's not just the appearance, but the entire build and skill set that are identical to his. Ready to strike back, our MC comments that his opponent won't give up easily, so he activates 3 different skills while preparing his attack. He keeps aiming, activating one buff after another, and finally says that he will show the difference between a copy and the original. Without wasting time, our hero gets ready and fires several projectiles from his weapon at his opponent, who remains still, only aiming. At that moment, Tian senses something wrong. The guy was already behind him, firing. That attack grazes him, and now he is even more certain that the copy's skills match his own. He is literally in a mirrored confrontation, and of course that can't mean good luck. Our protagonist dodges skillfully, while his copy merely watches him in silence. But his opponent senses something too. Out of the corner of his eye, he manages to see our hero's shadow. So, without wasting time, he fires several projectiles in that direction, only to realize that his opponent isn't there, while Ted taunts him, saying it's a lame trick, and that he won't get anywhere like that. But from where he had been, Tien was already preparing the counterattack, and a powerful projectile heads toward his cocky opponent. Even so, his copy dodges easily, saying what he feared, that the two are on the same level, and that he wouldn't be hit by weak attacks like that. But who said Ted was finished? He fires again, forcing his opponent to dodge once more, while the copy keeps provoking our protagonist. Then, suddenly, he stops, and while several projectiles fly toward him, the copy says that he will end this now in a direct way, and from among those projectiles, that thing fires, making our MC barely get out of the way. When he regains his footing, something seems wrong. At that moment, his copy is already right in front of him, with the weapon pointed at his face, saying, "This ends here." But it seems he isn't the only one with a few hidden tricks. He starts to catch fire, and too late realizes that our hero left traps around the area. That thing asks if he intends to keep him busy with traps while trying to find an opening to attack. He removes his cloak and throws it away, saying that it wasn't bad but it was still far from enough, and that he still has a long way to go to become worthy. He finishes by asking where he will hide when there are no more rat holes. With that, he fires many more times, trying to hit our protagonist. He says that the time for tricks and traps is ending, because time is running out. And once again, the guy is standing over our hero, his weapon pointed at him, saying, "I will send you to your fate." But suddenly, something grabs his foot, slightly irritated. He wonders if this might be another trap. Meanwhile, our MC thinks that all he needs is an instant to use a technique he developed. His opponent's image is reflected in his sights, as he adds that it is not a skill, but a purely physical technique. His opponent finally realizes that he was not looking for an opening, but had been waiting from the very beginning for the moment when he would have no way to react. For the first time in this fight, Tien has the upper hand, and has his musket pointed directly at his copy's face. Shortly after, our protagonist is on the ground, completely wrecked. His opponent, still standing, is smiling as he catches fire, and says that in the end, he may really be worthy of that power. Then Ted gets up in shock, trying to reach for his weapon, but he is already in another place, together with the god of the forge, who, noticing that he has awakened, asks if he is alright. Emotional and smiling, our hero confirms that he is and finally has a +19 weapon in his hands. He realizes that all the luck he lacked in life may have finally appeared now, and has probably escaped his constant bad luck. Tien notices that the terminal shows something about reincarnating in a contract, leaving him somewhat confused. A voice says that he must now be reborn from infernal terrors, and he panics, thinking no way. Some lights appear in the place while he asks them to wait a moment. He is confused, because no one said anything about a contract. Terrified, he realizes that all his titles and skills are disappearing. Windows saying that he does not have the level required to use the equipment he is wearing, only make everything even more dramatic. A few seconds later, he reincarnates as a level 1 character. The god of blacksmiths approaches, asking if our boy is alright, but he really does seem devastated. The menu shows that his heart rate is above the allowed limit, so he ends up being disconnected from the game instantly. That blacksmith wanted to thank our hero for the enlightenment he attained after completing the contract. Then he begins embedding something into his hammer, thinking that the return of a traveler who has departed is unknown, and that he needs to set out on a training journey. He leaves his hammer behind as he goes on his way, because even though he has become a master blacksmith, his knowledge is still shallow. Meanwhile, in the real world, our hero kicks open the lid of his capsule and drags himself out, while his new friend finishes the thought, saying that he will remain anxious until the day they meet again. While Ted despairs on the floor of his room, all the god of blacksmiths wishes his good luck in the future for that young man who managed to perform 19 miracles. 3 years after the game launched, someone was talking about a unique +10 weapon in a VR video call at the company that owns the game. They comment that the guild that achieved this will be safe for a while, but they thought it would take about 6 years for such a weapon to appear. They worry whether they will see +15 weapons in about 10 years. And another guy replies that it is unlikely, but the chances are not zero. One of them says that, if this keeps up, they might even see the main scenario develop, if of course, some lucky person appears. But they know that if someone like that appeared, it would break the game's balance, and they do not believe anyone could be that lucky. Now we have a character selection screen, where one called Ted is available, but he is level 1. Our boy puts his hands on his head, still unable to believe this situation, having lost what took 10 years to build. If it were only the level, he could still endure it, but he also lost his titles and skills. But at least he still has that plus 19 weapon that he can use to level up again. That's it. He thinks everything is fine, because he has the most powerful weapon in the world in his hands, and he can gradually earn everything else back. Then, leaving the room looking like a zombie, he thinks it is a good time to eat something. But when he gets to the living room, something catches his attention. It seems that someone shoved an envelope through the crack in his door. Opening it, he finds some documents and wonders if this was delivered by mistake. He starts reading, and as he keeps reading, he gets a little irritated. Finally, he finds something that makes him very nervous. Meanwhile, at the headquarters of the Alibaba Guild, Manhwa tells someone that they succeeded in making Ted delete his character. The boss asks whether everything went smoothly, and Manhwa replies that he was tracking his curse, and it disappeared completely. The menu said discarded, so it seems that everything worked out, and he adds that it seems the boy had realized that they had taken control of the bosses. He explains that, as a precaution, he pressured the individuals around him with indiscriminate PK, but even so, he still feels a little worried. Someone replies that this is not a significant problem. Jiwei, one of the guild's 3 sages, questions why there was so much stress, since even if they were accused, everything would disappear soon, and he adds that in any case, they did not harm any other organization. The merchant ships defeated by the sea dragons were due to bait they had thrown out, and there were no known players among those who failed in the attack. And with no evidence, everything would calm down after a small initial commotion. Manhwa thinks that they were shaken by the threat of scum like that. Jiwei suggests that the master is not feeling any better about it, especially because he valued one of those bosses. Irritated, the leader crushes part of his chair, questioning the method. The girl replies that due to the new policies, PK is harder now, so the leader suggests they should take down a couple of those foundations. Ted throws those papers on the floor, cursing. He realizes those bastards blocked his video channel and his bank account. The guys claimed property rights, but annoyed, he knows that taming bosses is illegal to begin with. Our MC gets furious, because this shouldn't even be legal, but he notices there's no set date on the document, which scares him, because he thinks they're trying to leave him broke and starving. He considers taking everything he has to Rodisa TV and exposing it all, but he believes the guild would work to cover it up quickly anyway. He understands that the guild must think he deleted the character, and they don't even know about that. Plus 19 weapon. Whether this is bad luck or not, our protagonist decides he will have his revenge, but for now, this has to go unnoticed, and for the time being, he'll be Ted Bear. He cries, because he never thought he'd have to sell high-level equipment, much less spend it all on that thing there. Already in his great disguise, he notices something. Getting closer, he finds the hammer Brahmin left behind. There's a note there explaining what the blacksmith will do and telling him to go visit him, and of course our hero will do that soon. Sometime later, our bare-headed guy is hunting a cute little horned bunny. He focuses, aiming his weapon and lands a direct hit on his target. As he expected, his true strength didn't come from his levels. The poor cute little thing is trembling all over. Then, all of a sudden it turns and runs away, making our protagonist realize he can't kill even a level 1 monster in a single attack. He opens the menus to look for an explanation for this. After all, he's using a plus 19 weapon. Assessing the situation, he realizes he has a 0.1% connection. It seems that the more he uses it, the stronger it will get. Not to mention that the hexagram skill is pretty broken. In other words, this makes it possible to maximize any skill he obtained through an orb. Very excited, Ted realizes that with this he can not only get his revenge against that Chinese guild, but also achieve the dream of being first in the rankings. He laughs exaggeratedly, almost like a movie villain, while the desperate bunny makes a run for it. Before he can change class, he'll need to level up, so he decides to head to a hunting ground with a recommended level of 10. Nearby, 2 guys are arguing. The mage wants the warrior to hold off the monster, while the warrior, afraid, would rather the mage use some magic to deal with it. Irritated, he defends himself by saying he used up all his mana earlier, cleaning up the mess the rest of the party left behind. But at that moment, they're surprised by something in front of them. A wrecked guy falls right in front of them. The warrior stammers in fear, because that guy there was part of his party, and when he looks to the side again, where the mage had been, he finds only his hat. Trembling all over, he doesn't understand how he could have vanished so suddenly. Then, in the very next moment, he gets hit hard from behind. Already on the ground, he realizes in despair that someone threw a body on top of him. Finally, he glances over his shoulder, only to see that terrifying creature coming at him. Meanwhile, in the forest, a bird is flying around peacefully, until it gets hit by a projectile and drops dead. Our MC notices that his level is rising fast. Now already at level 7, he starts coming out of his hiding spot in the bush. He checks his menu and sees he has 300 power, and it sounds like a cheat for leveling up faster. Suddenly, something catches his attention. A black smoke appears very close to him in the middle of the forest, leaving him intrigued. Quickly, he notices who's responsible. Prowling around there, that giant eagle flies by very close. A group tries to flee in desperation, and Tien realizes the monster keeps attacking even when it's full, something truly evil. But he knows this eagle can drop something really good. Then the monster grabs a log and throws it at one of the guys trying to run away, hitting him dead on. Surely, with that mobility and those attack methods, it must already have become a trauma for newbie players. He himself has already gotten wrecked by that monster a few times. And in the real world, just seeing a bird's shadow would make him tense up. So he points his weapon, because now it's time for the big bear's revenge. The bizarre bird has already finished off the group that was trying to flee, and without warning, takes a solid shot right to the face. Ted gives it no respite and fires again, this time hitting the wing dead on, and the creature cries out from the attack. The giant eagle looks back, realizing it now has a nice big hole in its wing. It gets furious, and understandably so, right? It was just there peacefully killing others and got interrupted. So it goes to where it thought the shot came from, but finds nothing. And to its surprise, another bullet hits it, leaving another hole in its wing. The monster flies into a rage, and flies over to a nearby log, intending to use the same attack as before. Then it takes off carrying that log, but when it reaches a certain height, it gets nailed by another shot from our MC. This time, it left a toll request. Ustream. And without letting up, Ted keeps firing non-stop, not missing a single shot. Now the monster already seems to be afraid, and shortly after, it's neutralized on the ground, completely wrecked. Our MC walks up happily for having leveled up his stealth, saying the monster shouldn't hold a grudge, since it was the one that started this. The creature tries to act all cute to see if it works, but it looks like our protagonist isn't having it, and opens fire on the beast. Finishing the job, he takes a look at what it managed to drop, and it seems he at least made back the cost of the bullets. Still, he's happy to have completed the mission, and now it's time for the job change. Arriving at the place, he realizes it's been quite a while since he was last there. He looks on nostalgically at the Seaboley Musketeer Academy. As we already saw, he showed up at the master's place asking to join the academy. After being completely dismissed, the kid nailed every single target even with the totally broken sight and left the master speechless. Finally, he claps, saying that even for him it's hard to get a perfect score. He says he will acknowledge his talent and prepare everything needed for the class change. Stretching, our MC thanks him for everything, while his master leaves satisfied, but under the bear mask he's sweating, really tense, thinking it was a close call. Right at the end, the wind shook the coin and he almost missed. He thinks that in moments like this that stupid god should help out with some luck. Then he goes over to the hunchback, catching him by surprise, and asks why he was pretending not to know him. Then says that when he got his second class, the guy gave him a rare scope. Ronaro says he hates him because the Baron disappeared because of him. Says the academy was about to close because it needed someone famous, and Ted was his hope. But since he refused the third class change, the Baron left aiming for something grand. Ted asks if he tried to get revenge with the broken gun, and even though he knows that's stupid, Rondoro couldn't control himself and did it. He adds that he was frustrated because Tien was their only hope. From what our MC remembers, Ronoro was taken in by the Baron, so he feels upset, but there's nothing he can do. Our hero intends to keep following his plan to become number one, so he apologizes, but Ronoro says it's fine, asking if he's leaving again. With that, he hands him a box. Tien accepts it, curious, while Ronoro explains that the Baron asked him to give it to him when he came back, apologizing for being carried away by personal feelings. Our boy thinks the guy is kind of rude, but it's understandable, because even as an NPC, he still has programmed emotions. Ronaro asks that if he finds the Baron during his travels, he tell him they're doing well. Then Ted apologizes, but the hunchback says he's the one who should be forgiven for what he did. When the guy leaves, our MC realizes the best part has come, opening that gift. Just hearing that it came from the Baron already makes him restless, but he'll only know if he opens it, so that's what he does. When he opens it, a strong light comes out from inside, and our protagonist is pretty incredulous at what he sees. Our hero stares fixedly at the box, realizing it's a skill orb. It seems he got pretty lucky, because it's an independent orb, meaning it can grant a skill that isn't basic, and even if the level is low, he can evolve it with the hexagram constellation, possibly even obtaining a unique skill. Very happy about it. He thanks the old man, and immediately opens his skill menu. A little disappointed, he sees that he got Goblin Summon. He believes goblins are useless and starts looking for something else the old man might have left for him in the box. Then, while he was shaking it, a letter falls to the floor. He picks it up and starts reading. In the letter, the old man teases him for getting excited and says this is revenge for abandoning the academy, telling him to come after him in a specific city. Tien starts laughing as he reads it, only to reveal his real anger right after, calling him a crazy old man. He lets out all his fury, shouting that he'll see when he meets him again. Sometime later, in a hunting ground full of monsters, an orc is fighting what seems to be a player. The guy shouts for more healing, and his support tells him to manage for now, because she's already spent too many mana potions just healing him. But at that moment, the monster is hit dead on, leaving the warrior surprised, while the cleric is quite irritated that someone stole her finishing blow. Tien watches the scene from afar, now already at level 59. He wonders how many days have passed like this, just shooting from a distance. In a way, it's good to level up like this, but maybe he should be doing quests. On that occasion, he was firmly refusing something. Raiden needed his help with some mission, but our hero wasn't very interested in it. The guy begs him to do something on the Sauron Plains, and suggests he must be heading there anyway, but our MC just tries to avoid him. Tien even thinks it's a good place to level up, but wonders why he should help the academy of the old man who tried to screw him over. Raiden explains that strange clouds were seen there, and he would like him to investigate it. In exchange, Ted wants him to speak well of him to the Thieves Guild. He intends to get his second class with them, but since there's no academy, he needs a proper introduction for that. Raiden agrees and comments that it's not difficult, and asks Ted to make sure about the clouds. So, our MC finally accepts the quest. He thinks he doesn't know where the city the old man mentioned is, but believes that if he keeps doing quests he might eventually get there. Then he gets ready again, taking aim at another orc in the field, but before he could shoot, someone appears and finishes off the monster. He thinks those guys have been causing trouble for a while, and wonders what they might be doing. He had noticed a camera, so it seems they're streamers. He tells himself to calm down, since he won't gain anything by killing them, and if his crime rate goes up it'll become a problem. All he needs is one more orc to reach level 60, but while aiming, he realizes he can't see anything, and when he looks more closely, he sees a huge bizarre person. He tells him to go use his entertainment skills somewhere else, wondering if he should just kill him, but he calms down again, since leveling up is the priority. But to his surprise, a whole bunch more of them appear around him. Ted thinks he had been looking at it the wrong way. As he aims at them, he concludes it would be much better if there were more monsters this size to target. That guy grabs an orc while thanking a donor from his livestream for donating 200 balloons. Enjoying himself, he says he'll do a monster crush for him. But right at that moment, he gets hit in the face by a projectile. The others don't really understand why he suddenly exploded, but they think he got hit while messing around with the orc. And while they were calling him an idiot, those two get hit dead on as well. They panic when they realize it's a sniper. They'd like cover, but in this open area, that would be impossible. With that, our MC's crime rate rises to 700. But our MC feels much better now that he has a clear view of everything. Elsewhere in the real world, some streamers came out of their pods, frightened by what had happened. Our MC stays up in the tree, and finally obtains a vision skill for having focused his senses for so long. Of course he accepts, since those extra stats are important. Even more motivated, he decides to continue. So instead of hitting the monsters, he starts taking out the players one by one. Tien doesn't really understand how his attack power got so strong, and gets ready to keep farming some experience points. But something suddenly catches his attention. Somewhere else, someone slams the table, irritated that everyone working in Area 1 had died. An employee apologizes while the boss questions whether no one really saw who did it. The guy is tense and embarrassed, explaining that it happened too fast and from too far away for them to see. Since they were in an open area, they couldn't dodge, and were hit easily. The boss says this is clearly an intentional attack, and believes that Sniper must be level 400 to kill level 200 players like that. Then he throws a bag to his employee. The guy is a little surprised by it. Then the boss orders that if anyone interferes with their operation, he should take that bag and release him. Our hero arrives at the kingdom of Charon, in Sauron's territory, and stands before the city entrance. He knows going back and forth takes forever, so he wanted to finish Raiden's quest quickly. Anyway, he looks at his menu, and sees that he received a title he had never even seen before. Then again, who would be crazy enough to kill 10,000 creatures in 10 days? The title gives him a skill that absorbs life as he attacks. In other words, if he has around 8,000 power, he'll recover 400 GP with each attack. Looking more like a villain than our hero, he celebrates, since that's half his health. And with that he can hunt more comfortably. But just as he is about to enter the city, our MC is stopped by the guards. Since he has a crime rate of 4,700, the guards glare at him intimidatingly, while Ted sweats nervously and tries to say he'll behave. He heads inside, realizing he'll need to lie low for a while. Then something nearby catches his attention. Nearby, there's a group talking, and it seems the bigger ones are telling the smaller one that if they lose the item, they'll PK him. The boy is terrified when his companions use a scroll that will force him to reveal information. Disappointed to see that he's low level, he tells the kid to get lost and not tell anyone. The guy is getting a little tired of searching and finding nothing, and the other says he's not doing this for fun, and tells him to stop whining. That skinny guy thinks he saw someone, but his partner didn't, and even says he's said that too many times today. Tien knows that scroll and wonders if those guys were sent by the guilds. He keeps listening, and it seems they received information that someone would be arriving today. Our MC thinks that if it were the guilds, they would have sent more people, and what he needs to do is get out of there fast. Suddenly, someone bumps into our favorite bear and apologizes, saying he was looking at the map. That young man looks at him as if he knows him, suddenly grabs him, and pulling him closer, asks a question. Black and white. Ted tenses up, thinking he let his guard down because of this teddy bear outfit, and wondering if he might have been tracked. So he tries to play dumb and acts like he doesn't understand. But the guy is all excited, saying he doesn't need to be shy, and that he made a weapon exactly like Ted's. Very tense, he thanks him and decides that next time he'll say the weapon is fake. The guy says he'd better not stay around there too long, and that makes our MC a little curious. So the guy asks if our hero has ever heard of the Paprika Special Forces. Ted plays dumb again, saying he's a newbie. So the boy tells him that PASF is a guild that grew quickly with bizarre content. Their content includes framing NPCs with false information and modifying monster bodies, as well as eating some compromising parts of monsters. Unable to believe the absurdity of what he heard, he asks why those guys are relevant. The guy says they were planning something in the Sauron Plains, but someone showed up and wrecked them. Of course Ted knows who it was, right? Then he asks if he saw anything while he was there, but all our hero can think is that he's screwed. He quickly says he doesn't know anything, and the guy realizes it's a waste of time, since apparently no one saw anything. Nearby, that duo keeps bothering the others. Thinking his luck has gone down the drain again, he asks if the boy doesn't think other guilds would be keeping an eye on things, and that's why the guy told him not to stay around there. He says that last night they had a violent clash with another guild. He explains that they were already enemies, but they used this incident as an excuse. That's a problem because they were like knights and looked after the area, but now they've all completely disappeared. Then, out of nowhere, our hero logs out, leaving the guy wondering if he said something wrong, though maybe he just talked too much because he was a Ted fan. He notices that duo coming closer. The guys are already exhausted, and they ask if he's the mercenary their guild sent. Seems there was a mix-up there, and the guy forgot to introduce himself when he arrived. One of them thinks this doesn't look promising at all, since the boss had said something about a secret weapon, but the other says this guy is a ranker. Using his menu, the boy contacts someone, who asks if he arrived in Sauron territory. After confirming, he asks if he should kill the guy right now, but on the other end, the person says they sent something, and he should just find a place and wait for contact. That is Rowan, a great musketeer at level 551, who is ranked 231st, so he agrees with the person on the other end. Ted was looking at the latest news about PASF, and it seems they had launched a surprise attack. Tense, he realizes it happened in a cowardly way, without a declaration of war. But PASF is claiming they acted in self-defense, and on top of that, this attack caused heavy damage to the Nightwalker guild base. Ted realizes that Nightwalker is going to withdraw from Sauron territory. He notices he's gotten involved in another problem again, and that these guilds aren't going to let this slide. Nightwalker is the Ranker guild his brother founded. Ted believes the guy must know something about this, so he tries making a call, and remembers a situation from the past, where he apparently was having a serious argument with someone. Our protagonist thinks it's a very awkward call. Then on the other end, his brother answers, and he awkwardly asks how he's doing. It seems the guy is a knight, so he replies that he's fine and busy because he's a guildmaster, but asks how he is and says that their mom and dad have been watching his streams. Stammering a little, Ted says he wants to ask something, and when he brings up PASF, his brother says he knows them and asks if something happened, while Ted seems pretty tense. In the end, he says the guild is harassing newbies in the hunting grounds, and it seems they're doing it very deliberately, so he asks if his brother knows anything. The boy asks him not to tell anyone, but says he knows they're trying to wear down Count Sauron's forces. Our hero is surprised and worried by that answer. His brother says they're preparing to take the territory, trying to drive as many players out of the area as possible to make it easier, and if player growth is delayed because of that, they'll probably leave the territory, which will result in the local forces being weakened. Tien then realizes what their goal is. He got involved in something more troublesome than he imagined, and while he was thinking about it, his brother speaks again. He says Ted suddenly stopped streaming, and their parents got worried. Our MC says everything is fine, but his brother says it's been a long time since they saw each other, and their parents missed him, at which point our hero cuts him off. His brother then says goodbye, and leaves our hero there feeling tense, but in the end, he thanks him and asks his brother to be careful. After ending the call, he puts his hands on his head, saying he's a complete idiot, and thinks it's always like this. He wonders why things can't be peaceful, and why this always happens to him. No matter what he does, this bad luck always follows him. He doesn't understand why he always has to go through these ridiculous things. He wonders how this could be his fault, wanting to believe it's just other people dragging him into it. He feels furious now. He thinks about the guild manipulating the bosses, and also about them trolling others, and comes to the conclusion that he wasn't fighting someone who was just minding their own business. And now that he's lost all his levels, what is there to fear? Punching the table, he realizes that this bad luck or whatever else doesn't make sense anymore. Then he returns to the capsule. As he enters it, all he can think about is that he needs more levels. He knows he needs to level up fast, because they might be preparing something for him. Going back into the game, our protagonist will be ready for whatever comes. In Sauron 2 hunting grounds, a player hunts some orcs. The guy says that although they are stronger than the ones in Area 1, he can handle them, and his partner encourages them to keep going. But when he was about to lure a few more, something really bizarre happens. The girl is terrified by what she sees, and right after that, the guy drops dead. Not understanding, the girl wonders if there are mobs with attacks like that in the area. She is really terrified now. Ted is surprised that that life-draining bullet really healed him, and thinks it's pretty broken. But he's upset because he wasn't trying to hit a player, increasing his crime rate even more. He realizes his skill still isn't that good, and if his criminality goes up anymore, he won't be able to enter the Count's territory anymore. He'll have to use it in moderation until he improves his proficiency. He notices he's at level 99, and in the game growth is blocked every 100 levels. Now he'll need to hunt a boss-type monster, and that's the big problem. There are no bosses in the Plains of Sauron. That's to be expected since it's a beginner area, but it's annoying to have to go somewhere else. He goes down while thinking about the best way to do that. The nearby group gets scared and decides to run away, because it looks like they saw a monster. Tian wonders what's going on now, and notices that there really is a bizarre creature there. That's a junior demon. Our MC knows it only appears when a demonic item is used, and quickly realizes someone did that deliberately. The monster starts charging an attack, and launches it at those poor guys who were nearby. The players in the area see a few more people dying, and that leaves them even more scared and hopeless. With no other options, they do the only plausible thing, run away screaming. Someone asks if they can see the stream clearly, and the guy, looking like a court jester, comments that it's refreshing to see the newbies getting wrecked. They talk about how they can't believe that guild really used a demon, and that this seems really important to them. But now convinced, he wonders who would mess with them in front of a level 300 boss. A loud noise draws the two guys' attention. Something strange is happening with that demon. Tien realizes it's obviously those guys doing, and takes aim at those bastards. Switching his target to the demon, he comments that everything is going well, then he fires while thanking them for handing him a boss-type monster on a silver platter. He hits the creature several times, and it tries to counterattack, but our MC is alert, and uses his movement skill to dodge, while never stopping shooting. He jumps from the tree hit by the demon, thinking that, as expected of a level 300 boss, he can't let his guard down. Running through the forest, he activates his stealth, and the demon loses sight of him for a moment. It gets really irritated by the situation, but keeps flying while looking for him. Our hero believes about 5 more shots should do it, and all he needs now is a good spot to position himself. But something catches his attention, and when he looks, something huge is coming straight at him. He is hit head-on by that thing, and falls to the ground. He realizes that just one attack took half his life, and that maybe he should have invested in other attributes. For now, all he can do is hide again, but he notices he has been infected with ghost poison, and something will emerge from his body in 5 minutes. Suddenly, a kind of aura starts coming out of his body. Realizing he's in trouble, he starts getting up, but the worst happens. He is found, and in an instant, the demon is already right in front of him again. As expected, the creature unleashes another powerful attack. From behind a rock, one of the guys asks if that isn't the bugged sniper they're looking for. Another guy asks what he's looking at, and suggests they get out of there before things go bad for them. While he was thinking about that, one of his companions drops dead beside him. He seems to be withering away, and the guy wonders what the hell that is. Back in the fight, the demon realizes it didn't hit anyone, and takes a shot to the eye just to wake it up. It clearly felt that attack, while Ted realizes he would have died if there hadn't been anyone around for him to absorb life from. The demon is badly wounded now, and our hero moves closer, asking if it has never seen a DPS that could heal itself. With that expression like he's in control, he tells it to see who dies first, calling that thing a bat gorilla. The monster feels cornered, and starts attacking non-stop. T knows a few more hits and he'll win this duel, but it's hard to face it head-on, so he needed to buy a little more time. Our protagonist seems to have had a good idea while looking at that streamer's camera. And smiling, he says he found a way to buy time. Nearby, the guild guys worry because the guy is being so persistent, since if this fails, the guildmaster will be furious. He is really incredulous that someone who hunts in a beginner area is facing that monster. At that moment, one of the guys steps forward, and the one who looks like an idiot tells him to protect himself so he doesn't die. But the man says that's exactly why cowards never notice these things on the ground. There are a bunch of items there from people who died before, and according to him, soon there'll be the junior demon's drops too. His companions get a little tense, because it looks like there are other guys around there keeping an eye on it too. Another one gets excited, asking if he's really just going to watch the others loot everything. The idiot ends up agreeing, since it could help cover the expenses they had, but suggests they watch for a while. At that moment, our MC passes right over them using his movement skill. The guys panic and grab their weapons. They wonder what just passed through there, but one of the members says it can only be the sniper, and right behind him of course comes the demon full of rage, leaving the guys in despair. That group starts arguing, blaming each other for the mistakes. The big problem is that the item costs 3,000 gold, and they don't know how to explain that to the guildmaster. And at that moment, a shot flies by, hitting 2 of those idiots at the same time. Frightened, they start screaming, because they're surrounded by our hero, and on the other side, the huge demon, which is already launching an attack at them. Without mercy, the giant monster finishes the boys off. Meanwhile, our MC takes advantage of the situation and keeps leaping across the rocks while aiming at that monster. He gets close enough to fire a point-blank attack, knocking that huge monster to the ground. Without letting up, our MC approaches with his gun aimed. He gives thanks for the hunt, and fires the finishing blow into the monster. Sitting down, exhausted, he says that was pretty hard. While the menu shows he reached level 105, one of the guild guys can't believe our MC actually pulled it off. Then the group starts running over excitedly, intending to get some free loot, but Ted is watching and ruins their fun. With his best evil bear expression, he fires non-stop at those opportunists. And when he's done, he goes to pick up everything that dropped there, but realizes that aside from the belt, there's nothing special. While thinking he'd be able to get 90 gold, he notices something, a huge ghost poison potion. He stores it away, since it might be useful in the future, but gets pretty irritated, thinking about how far those PASF people are willing to go. Elsewhere, the leader of the PASF guild is furious because our MC keeps interfering with his plans. He believes the guy must be level 500 to kill a demon like that, wondering whether they can deal with this problem. The guy really spent a lot of money on this plan to get Sauron's territory for himself. He knows he can't keep losing people like this, so through a call, he tells someone that the junior demon failed too, and he shouts furiously, saying he sent him to take care of the guy, and that being level 500 shouldn't be a problem. On the other end, the boy asks if it's really okay for him to leave once the contract is over, and the boss agrees somewhat reluctantly. That young man notices the boss is in a hurry, and says he's close to the location, so he'll head there right now. Our hero runs through Sauron Field 3, while a somewhat irritated group throws fireballs at him. A creature that is probably a sorcerer is responsible for that. In an instant, Ted turns and fires, leaving those things somewhat confused, because the next moment, he simply vanished. In the middle of the smoke, a shadow appears, and without thinking twice, the monsters fire again. When the smoke clears, they notice a somewhat grotesque structure there, and of course that leaves them a little scared. That enormous thing moves and starts crushing them all. Crawling nearby, our dear hero fights through all the dust and filth. He's grateful his opponents pulled the aggro, because that place is rough, since there are lots of monsters with ranged attacks. But he finally made it there, and looking up, wonders if he arrived in time to see it appear. Looking at his menu, he realizes he did. He'll have to endure these debuffs, because these guys are the only way to get Indomitable. This skill increases defense in proportion to attack, lasts 1 minute, while his HP drops drastically. Normally tankers are the ones who use it, but for a guy with a plus 19 weapon, that's a whole different story. Once he gets it, it'll be like having an extra life. The only problem is that the condition to get it is hunting 99 monsters, while keeping his HP at 9%. Ted knows that's a complicated condition for a fragile musketeer, and that's where some invisible monsters come into play. The problem is exactly that. He gets bitten without knowing it, and takes a permanent stat reduction. When bitten, he loses 1 point of intelligence, but when hunted, they can randomly grant back one of the attributes they consumed. The problem with that is obvious. How are you supposed to hunt something you can't see? His stats keep getting drained, while he only needed to hunt just one. Ting takes some measures to protect himself from the attacks, but as for the stats, that's a different story. Tense, he wonders if he could get 2 skills, but decides to figure that out later. He thinks he shouldn't be stupid and attack other players, or he'll be screwed, while a giant mosquito that had been watching simply evaporates. He finds it strange that it just disappeared, while his HP still isn't recovering. So he goes to try again. He fires, and once again the mosquito disappears. At that moment he realizes the invisible monsters might be eating the insects. You're starting to find this realism kind of boring. After all, this isn't an ordinary mosquito, right? It's a bullet from your gun. Annoyed, he thinks he came here to play, and now this happens. But in the next moment, he thinks the invisible creatures are approaching on their own. Then he gets the idea of the century, and grabs his bottle of poison. While looking at the mosquito, he wonders if this could work. Tien throws the poison over the bug, sending it forward. Then, suddenly it disappears, and a creature that had been invisible before falls to the ground dead. Right away he gets several attribute points and becomes quite excited, thanking that junior demon. Night falls over the place, and that enormous structure is there, firing non-stop. Meanwhile, our Ted keeps working, realizing that not only has he recovered what he lost, but he has gained many more attributes. Since his proficiency increased, he can now communicate simply with the mosquito, and most importantly, with these attributes now, he won't die to light attacks. He intends to go to Area 4 soon, but not before checking something strange in the clouds. It seems the moon has a mark on it, and he wonders whether the moon had always been like that around here. Suddenly there is something beneath his feet. Our MC notices it, but everything explodes, while that duo from earlier thinks they found the bugged sniper. Excited, they celebrate his death. But out of nowhere, a projectile hits one of them, and his companion, stammering, is quite shocked by what happened. Heads go flying everywhere, while Ted hides, thinking he almost kicked the bucket. Then he decides to turn his attention back to what matters. there's an eye on that moon, and he knows it's someone's skill of at least level 500. On the other side, Rowan prepares for battle, realizing his opponent will be a skilled musketeer. For his part, our protagonist is also enjoying the mirror match, especially since he can test his skills. Smiling, hidden in the tree, he thinks, why don't I join the fun a little? Rowan wonders why they sent those useless guys there, since they don't help at all. All they did was expose their position. Besides that, he still hasn't managed to identify where his opponent is, but he thinks that, judging by the skills, the guy must be over level 500. What he doesn't understand is why a ranker would be in a beginner area. Then another bullet passes by, and while dodging, he wonders if the guy is so confident that he believes he can keep shooting without revealing his position. Smiling, he then suggests he see how two musketeers play, and fires off a skill called Tornado Roulette, launching several projectiles at our MC. Those bullets travel quickly, while Ted tense wonders how his opponent can shoot like that even with his position exposed. Of course he knows the skill, and knows it consumes a lot of mana because it's an area skill. He watches from hiding, wondering if the guy went all out because his trap failed. Suddenly, he notices something, and activates his movement skill so he can dodge yet another attack. It looks like now his opponent wants to cut down the whole forest, before he runs out of mana. Ted keeps sweating, tense, but he has an idea. He crouches down and takes aim, thinking about hitting the guy first. And sure enough, his shot lands squarely on that musketeer. Our protagonist is pleased with the hit, but he knows the guy wouldn't die from just that. On the other hand, it seems he pierced a defensive artifact with just one shot, and now the one who's a little worried is Rowan. The damage is high even for a level 500, and he decides to check for himself, thinking he received incomplete information about his target. Rowan activates a detection skill, and the moon above them opens its eye, searching for something. He knows that this way his target won't be able to hide. So, shortly afterward, he manages to find our MC. He takes out a scroll and points it toward our guy. That paper emits a light, and something starts happening in the area. While taking aim, that paper is consumed by a purple flame, and Rowan thinks that if the guy is a ranker, he'll be able to learn his name. The menu shows that it's Ted and that he's level 150. Rowan is shocked, unable to believe that a guy of that level can deal all this damage. He wonders if the guy is using some kind of hack, but only then does he realize the menu said Ted, and trembling with rage says, "How dare you?" He becomes furious that some idiot hacker is using Lord Ted's name. Then he dispels the eye in the moon, saying he's seen enough, and saving a bit of mana by doing so. Now things have gotten crazy, and he's going to kill our guy for tarnishing Lord Ted's name. On the other side, our MC doesn't understand any of this sudden reaction from the guy. He notices that the guy changed strategies, wondering if it could be a backup skill. While watching and getting ready, he knows that if the guy recovers mana, it'll be a problem, and wonders if he's so irritated because he still hasn't managed to find him until now. Suddenly, several red projectiles head toward our hero, who is forced to take cover behind the tree again. Ted smiles, wondering what the guy is doing, while Rowan curses at him uncontrollably, attacking him and ordering him to come out of hiding. Several shots hit the trees, and that is the exact moment our hero had been waiting for, catching the shooter off guard. Our bearman activates a zoom skill and fires, successfully hitting his target once again. But the guy doesn't seem to feel it, and now he knows where he is, swiftly turning around and aiming at our protagonist. Ted can't believe what he just saw, having to dodge at the very last moment to avoid getting hit. Hidden away, he realizes the skill the guy used is very similar to his own, so he wonders if the guy learned it from his videos. Rowan is furious and out of control, saying it's unforgivable to use the name of the Musketeers of Light and of his savior, charging up an attack that could be a problem. He says he's going to punish our hero for it. Ted realizes it's the Moonlight Bullet, and believes he wants to destroy him and take the forest with him. He knows that if he lands 2 more hits he wins this, but even if he blocked one attack with Indomitable, how could he land the second one? He grabs something, thinking he's not really sure this will work, but asks that, just this once, it draw the attention it should. Then he quickly jumps out of his hiding place, and his opponent simply tells him to die, while firing a powerful attack at him. Musketeer was a terrible class. That was because it demanded perfect timing to aim and reload. The difficulty of auto-aim required manual work. There was also the cost of ammunition, and the fact that in close combat it was a weak class. Sitting in his capsule, Rowan thinks he was never able to overcome those limitations. And the combination of Sorcerer and Musketeer is even worse, since it practically turns you into a glass cannon. It's bad in every aspect, and not even the affection for his character could overcome all the criticism and mockery. But then a miracle happened. Someone with almost artistic movements and perfect accuracy bordering on the superhuman. All the gunslingers paid respect to his charisma and unmatched skills. Those videos showed the boy that he could do it too, and that his 5 years had not been in vain. He cried at the time, remembering that moment when he was saved by our protagonist. But back in the present, the fight continues. He thinks it's over now, and hopes he regrets the crime of using his name. But at that moment, he notices something is wrong. There where our MC's body should be, there's only a messed up little goblin. Tense, he knows there are no goblins around there, and is confused as to why an identity-forging musketeer would learn to summon a goblin. Suddenly, another shot cuts across the field and hits him dead on. He wonders if the guy used the goblin only as a disguise, thinking that's crazy, since this class already has very low DPS. Against the moonlight we can see our hero, and from the ground Rowan uses a zoom skill to aim at him. He notices the guy is using a technique that is Ted's signature, and he knows that well, since he trained it more than anyone. Furious, he fires, ordering the imposter to die, but the shot is nullified, having no effect on him at all. Rowan is surprised, recognizing the indomitable skill, and can't believe a mere level 150 would have that skill. But our protagonist is already in front of him with his weapon, and at that moment, Rowan seems to realize something. He knows he has watched this thousands of times. That stance, angle, and hand movement. Rowan proudly says he knows everything about Tien. Then he lowers his weapon, and at that moment he realizes there's no way to avoid recognizing his movements. He notices that bare-headed figure there is his idol Ted. Rowan will have no regrets if he dies there. On the other side, Ted realizes it's the fan he met earlier. He understands that he copied his skills through the videos and wonders whether he recognized him. He knows he managed to level up thanks to him, but it doesn't matter much because he managed to win. Putting his summoning skill into the socket, he thinks he got lucky this time, since he doesn't really know how to use it in combat. With his duty fulfilled, he decides to stop and go rest. Somewhere else, someone is irritated by a failure. Rowan tells his employer that even at level 550, he couldn't handle it. He says the good news is that it seems the guy wasn't recruited by Sauron's territory, and might just be a high-level NPC from the area. The boss can't believe a level 550 lost, thinking that's completely insane. With nothing else to do, the boss accepts it as bad luck, and looks for a silver lining. Sometime later, Rowan enters a place saying he's here. There, two girls say he's late, ask whether he finished the contract, but Rowan interrupts them by saying he lost. They look at him in disbelief. The young man smiles, asking if that means he'll have to take part in the siege as planned. But the girl gets irritated, wanting to know how he failed a low-level hunt, since things are already bad after Ted disappeared. Seeming perfectly at ease, he tells them not to worry and to get some goblin summoning orbs, but she's still very irritated. The redhead says they were worried about Ted, but it seems Rowan has lost his mind, and the other guy asks if they should change the leadership. Finally, the girl with glasses wants to know why the young man is so confident, and all excited, he opens his arms and says he witnessed a miracle. Our hero realizes that, with all this devastation, no monster will appear there for a good while. Now that he's leveled up quite a bit, he can finish the quests in Area 4 and get out of there. So he takes a quick look around to get his bearings. He activates a search skill. He notices that object is definitely artificial and wonders if it could be someone's trap. But then, all of a sudden, he notices something. There's a creature along with a whole army of monsters. Tense, he understands why those PASF bastards wanted to intervene, wondering if they had prepared something like this. He remembers they were preparing something with the intention of taking over that territory. It seems they're really determined to seize the Count's territory, but since he completed the quest, Ted doesn't want to get involved anymore. Even so, it's unsettling to know this is the work of those PASF idiots, and he realizes he needs to get a lot stronger fast. Then he arrives at a hunting ground called Spirit Temple, finding a whole bunch of flaming insects there. He gets excited after finding the fireflies and starts hunting them. It seems there really are a lot of them around there, which is good for our protagonist, who can barely wait to get started. He uses his goblin summoning skill, and a bunch of tiny little goblins appear on the spot. Tien used it because it was what he had, but now he has no idea what to do with this whole bunch of green brats. The original plan was to get more skill orbs and head to a higher level map, but he didn't find any good orbs at the auction, most likely because of his bad luck. If he could get at least one good orb, he could give his power a nice boost. And at that moment, a big-eared goblin tugs on his clothes, while Ted thinks this is better than nothing. They're level 30, so they're pretty weak, but they're fast and could help draw the monster's attention with a trick. Our MC then calls for the goblin's attention. He tells them to go draw all those monsters' attention so he can deal with them. The goblins seem pretty terrified by that, and they start crying and begging him not to make them do it. Ted tries to argue, but in the end, he gives in and asks them to put that on. And in the next moment, the goblins are wearing armor and shields. With a wicked grin, he says that now everything's fine and they should run. Now the little creatures finally move forward to obey their master. A little dissatisfied, Ted at least notices they're doing what he asked. He notices a huge cloud of fireflies moving, while shouting in irritation, wanting to know where his goblins are. That whole mass of monsters heads toward our protagonist, and in the next moment, a huge explosion happens. Shortly after, the goblins are there looking tense and scared. Then our MC's voice tells them to get up. Irritated, and with a piercing glare, Tien wants to know why they can't obey a simple order. He asks if the boys are messing with him, but the goblins answer no. Annoyed, Tien realizes they can't understand basic commands, so he wonders how he could use these goblins. Above them, something catches our hero's attention. Everyone is surprised when they see an insect with a slightly different glow. That is a level 190 ancestral firefly. As our protagonist gets ready to attack, the goblins run off, screaming in fear. The shot hits that monster dead on. Ted says he avoids group attacks because he's fragile, but he's not afraid of a single monster on its own. With that, he levels up and gets an upgrade to his goblin summoning skill, though he's surprised since he didn't do anything to earn it. Excited, he realizes the goblins evolved thanks to the XP he gained, and gets curious about what those evolutions might be like. He wonders if they'll turn into orcs, ogres, or maybe goblin shamans, but the truth is they'll at least become useful. While he's lost in that thought, the useless goblins keep causing chaos around there. Disappointed, Ted believes it's just a color change, feeling upset for getting his hopes up, but he's shocked when he realizes they gained a buff and the ability to imitate their creator. Now he really gets excited to try that out. Somewhere else, some golems are standing guard, when something passes by them very quickly. It was a projectile. One of the goblins was firing from a musket beside our MC. Really enjoying it, Tien asks how this is working, since if his power is 13,000, then his goblins will be 1,300. So he tells the little goblins to go all out from here on, and with practically a platoon of goblin marksmen, he orders them to begin. Ted says that's enough already, but his crew is more than fired up, shooting non-stop. Suddenly, a shadow appears over one of them, and our hero lays down the law, telling them to pay attention. He explains that they should only attack when he gives the order, and it seems the goblins understood, but our MC isn't all that convinced. But as he watches something, he thinks it's incredible. That's because his troop easily took down a level 200 monster. He realizes that as they are now, their attack power surpasses that of a level 350 player. On top of that, Tien gained a new skill. It's a skill used by summoners, but in any case he can use it to expand his strategies, comparing his goblins to a one-man army. It seems they're done there, and our MC tells them to come back. But something seems to be happening over there. He notices one of his soldiers has disappeared, and the terminal shows a negative status on him. While trying to understand, a goblin points in a direction, and our protagonist runs over there, thinking he should have dismissed the summon. Of course, it's not a permanent death, but it takes an hour before he can summon it again. Arriving at a clearing, he starts to hear a scream, and finally finds his goblin lying on the ground, completely battered. Some people nearby joke about the situation, commenting that it looks like a goblin, and they laugh, mocking it, saying that thing is just a mob. Our hero gets irritated by this, while the group asks who this teddy bear is that showed up out of nowhere. Annoyed, our guy shouts that it's his summon, and asks if they don't know there are no goblins in this area. While one of them steps on its head, Tien realizes the goblin still has 5% HP left. But to his surprise, at that moment, one of them uses a fireball spell. In disbelief, he asks if they're all deaf, explaining that he had already said it was his summon. The idiot apologizes and says his hearing isn't very good, and suggests he should have taken better care of his summons. Ted gets furious and curses out that idiot. But at that moment, one of his goblins tugs on his cape. He notices that the goblin goes into a state of rage, and is clearly dying to help his friend. One of the guys in the group asks if the bear didn't teach his mobs how to behave, and if they don't know their place. Smiling, Ted says they should listen when someone tries to stop them. But the guy calls him an idiot, and suggests the goblins should listen to their master. Our guy says he's cool with it, but his boys have some business to settle there. Laughing, they still mock the goblins for holding firearms, but in an instant, an attack blows that idiot apart, leaving the woman who was with him terrified, and the rest of the group confused. While she screams asking what's going on, she also gets hit head-on. One of the guys in the group tries to defend himself with a shield, and a girl, not understanding anything, suggests it might be a hack. The group defends itself as best it can, but the number of shots is enormous, and right after that, what we get is our hero's crime rate going up. The goblins keep firing non-stop, until our hero walks up and says that's enough, because after all, they've already been shooting for an hour. And finally all the goblins hug each other, celebrating. Ted thinks some people suffer because of their crime rate, so he finally decides it's time to give the little delinquents names. He calls that redhead Ilkick, that other one Dukik. The one who looks relaxed, he calls Sam Kick, thinking he has a talent for choosing names. Somewhere else, someone slams the table. The boss is pretty irritated again, but it seems like he should be used to it by now. He knows that since Rowan couldn't catch the guy, he must be level 650, or if they're unlucky, around 700. Desperate, he thinks about how he sold his house and car to prepare for this. But at that moment, a call interrupts his suffering. Someone asks if he is Chief Chow of PASF, and the devastated man confirms it. On the other end of the line, someone says they heard about his problems and his recent plan. To everyone's surprise, the unknown man says he's going to help him. Meanwhile, in the kingdom of Charon, still within Sauron's territory, two guards stand watch at that entrance. From From afar, our protagonist sees that there's no way he's getting in peacefully. With his crime rate above 6,000, he wonders if he should kill the guards too. Considering he'd be imprisoned one day for every 100 crime points, that would be a huge waste of time. Suddenly, a shadow appears, and looking to the side, our MC notices a carrier pigeon talking to him. He says the pigeon is late, since he bought this at the auction yesterday, then asks it to hand it over already. But the pigeon grabs his bare head. While arguing with it, our hero understands and replies that he'll pay the fees. He places the coins on the creature's wing, finally receiving what he bought from the pigeon. Annoyed by the pigeon's rudeness, he wonders if he should go now. He keeps walking toward the gate, when a guard sees him and immediately points his spear, asking what he's doing. The other guard asks what's going on, and his partner asks if he can't see it. Our poor protagonist is standing there with a giant menu over his head, showing his crime rate. The guy asks how he dares pretend to be innocent with such a menacing aura, but at that moment something happens. Our hero asks if he may pass, while the guard doesn't quite understand what's going on there. Stepping aside, he tells him not to cause any trouble. The guards talk as he passes, thinking they got the wrong impression of the guy. Ted notices that the item to hide his identity worked well, and that it was a good idea to buy it, but they said he might end up getting caught if he uses it occasionally, thinking it might be his bad luck again. So he decides to go finish his quest, and finally arrives at the Musketeers Academy. Raiden is surprised to learn that our protagonist already went to Area 4 and came back. Tien confirms it, and is suddenly hugged by the instructor, who is happy and says that's what he expected from the master's disciple. The guy drags him inside, and they finally arrive at some kind of office. Raiden asks if this then is the suspicious Cloud. Ted thinks he can't just let this slide. A level 450 boss showed up there, and he wants to complete the quest. He completes the previous quest, and his instructor thanks him, handing him a paper and saying that as promised, it's his letter of recommendation. Raiden asks if he knows about the thieves' instructor. Worried, Ted replies that he does, and that those guys are pretty strict. They hide out in lawless slums, and even in sewers and places like that. Raiden says he's worried that he chose a criminal class as his second class. Putting the paper away, our MC says he has his reasons. It seems you lose a lot more experience when you die. Also, when you die, you still lose a couple of items, and on top of that, if there's a bounty on you, you'll be hunted by other players. Many specialize in stealth, as well as traps and other things. It's really not a popular class, but it's ideal for our hero, who wants to focus on survival. Tien now wants to know where he should go, and his instructor explains that it's in an alley near a tavern. Finding that more normal than he expected, he asks if he could start the process of changing to the Musketeer second class. Raiden is surprised that he's already level 200, and explains that once he starts, he won't be able to stop. But our hero says he just needs him to show him where the test site is. He then begins the second class process. During this process, he has to live there for 12 hours a day for 30 days, doing whatever is necessary. Determined, our hero now begins the first day of his test. Raiden starts explaining what he has to hit, but before he can even finish, he's already hit everything he was supposed to hit. The instructor says he could at least have listened to the end, but Tien asks if he can step out for a bit, since he finished that test. His teacher explains that he just can't leave the area, or the process will reset, and asks what he needs to take care of. And as he leaves the place, he replies that he needs to buy a few things. Our protagonist walks through the commercial district of the Kingdom of Karan. He looks around, thinking it should be around there, and that the place shouldn't have changed. He thinks he found it as he looks at a little patch of grass there. Our MC approaches it, and crouching down, pulls the weeds upward. He smiles excitedly as the menu appears and says that he found Sauron's underground market. There are two types of trading areas in the game. The first is the general market, with NPCs and normal players, full of rules and regulations. And there's the second, called the black market, where there are no restrictions, and they can trade items, including illegal ones. But of course, just paying it a visit already increases your crime rate. Despite the risks, it's a very popular place because of what can be found there. The menu shows that it's an illegal place, but our Ted already knows all that, and finally manages to find the entrance to the place. It looks like just some abandoned place, and he comments that nothing has changed. While fiddling with the menu, he takes out some monsters that had been invisible, and says now is the time for them to shine. Invisible herons are infamous even among the NPCs. That's because they sometimes fly through the area and absorb NPCs' attributes, and that's why there's a bounty for hunting them. We access the market in Sauron's territory with coins, and our MC places the monsters in the opening to receive 1 coin per unit. Next, a bunch of coins falls into the container. Counting them, he thinks it's better than he expected. His priority is to get a skill orb. He needs one that matches his hexagram constellation skill. If that lousy summoning skill got that strong, once he gets a really good skill, things are going to get crazy. Having settled that, our hero enters the illegal place to begin his search. He looks over the stalls and examines the products. Tien finds a spell that can duplicate a document, while thinking the magic could actually be really useful. Then he is amazed when he sees an incendiary bullet that doubles his attack power. Farther ahead, he comes across a necklace that expands carrying capacity, but he shakes his head and tells himself he needs to resist, asking himself why he went there in the first place. And of course it's for the skill orbs. He feels determined, and sets his mind on the fact that only the skill orb is the answer. He approaches a stall, looking for the orbs, and the old man replies that some outsiders came 2 days ago and bought everything. He says they monopolized all of them, and killed everyone who tried to stop them, saying their name was PA something. Ted gets irritated because he immediately realizes it's PASF. He instantly sees that they're trying to take away every chance of defending the Count's territories. The old man keeps talking, saying they were annoying, but that it seems there's still one orb left in the shop next door. When he gets there, our MC is stunned, because that little glowing sphere there is a lightning charge orb. It's one of the few area damage skills that exist. He definitely needs that orb. Drooling over what he's seeing, he asks the shop owner how much he wants for that thing. Without taking his eyes off the newspaper, the guy says it's written right there. And to our protagonist's despair, it costs 40 coins. Ted protests the outrageous price, and the guy defends himself by saying he's just an employee, and if he wants to argue about it, he should talk to the boss. The old man from the other shop says that's why he still has one orb left over, because the price is absurd. But he was already expecting that because of his bad luck. When someone passes by him asking whether some idiot was going to sell something or not, that guy is the boss, and he's pretty irritated that his employee isn't selling properly, while the big skeleton defends himself, saying there's a buyer right there. All smiles. The boss asks what the customer would like, and our protagonist points to that skill orb over there. Excited, he adds that the buyer has a good eye, and all he has to do is pay 40 coins and take the orb. Ted comments that even for that orb, that's too much. And the boss changes his attitude, saying that if he doesn't have money, he should get lost, then starts grumbling that beggars get in the way of business. The guy turns around and leaves, leaving our MC standing there looking like an idiot, wondering what that guy's problem is. Ted calms down, since he still has time, and besides, there are many eyes watching around there. But he really needed to buy the lightning orb, only he doesn't know what to do, since he believes the guy won't lower the price. Suddenly a notification shows him that the PASF will begin a siege on Sauron in 30 days. They really are preparing a war to take the territory, and when that starts, users in the territory will be forced to participate. He hears some people around him commenting on the rumors of this war, and that those PASF guys are idiots and lunatics. Ted realizes that the class change will take 30 days, just like the start of this war. Tense, he notices that he'll be forced to take part in it too. His perfect leveling plan will be ruined by this. Actually worse than that, since this kind of event gets exposed in the community, and if they reveal that he didn't delete his character, our favorite bear will be completely screwed. Our protagonist runs off like a madman, leaving everyone confused. Tense, he wonders what's going on, whether the siege date might have been moved up. After a war like that begins, it can last from 1 month to half a year. Ted knows that if he has to wait half a year, he'll lose many levels. On the other hand, it would be bad to abandon the second-class test now. While he wonders whether he could at least finish the class change, something happens in front of him. He shields himself and hears someone saying that if he doesn't have money, he'll have to pay with items or with his body. A guy shouts that the building has to be vacated this week, and the other young man stammers, asking for a little more time. The blonde guy hits him, saying he's already many months overdue. Continuing, he says he already told the marksman to either pay what you owe or tear down the building. Irritated, he walks past our hero, telling him to get out of his way. Our boy asks Ronaro who that guy is, and the hunchback answers by saying he's always late. The hunchback says he needs to clear this place out, and asks him to speak with the master. Tien runs over to Raiden, wanting to know what's happening and who the blonde guy is, and the instructor says he's the owner of the academy building. Raiden explains that the guy has been buying up buildings in the Sauron area for years, but the problem is that he keeps raising the rent for no reason, and the instructor is devastated to realize he won't be able to keep the academy going. He says they lost the academy's rare items today, and apologizing, says he'll need to transfer him to another academy. Angry and surprised, Ted thinks that if he gets transferred, he'll have to restart the whole test from the beginning, and he'll certainly get stuck because of the war period. Tien thinks the guy doesn't seem very strong, and wonders if he should go kill him, but he can't leave the territory because of the class test, and if he does it there, he'll be arrested in the city, and will have to participate in the war too. He's devastated, because he thought he'd be able to escape with a one-day difference, but now he'll be trapped because of an idiot. While he was suffering there, he notices something. He remembers a hand gesture the guy made earlier. He thinks he's seen that somewhere before, and immediately remembers the black market guy. Smiling, he believes he now understands what's going on. Confidently, he tells his instructor that he'll solve this problem for him. Then he takes a flask with a red liquid, finally arriving at the place he was looking for. He heads to the alley behind the tavern, and there he finds a door, which he goes through, arriving at a large underground place. As he goes down, he wonders why these thieves are always so gloomy. When he reaches a large room that is completely empty, he keeps walking, and someone apologizes to him for being sad. At that moment he jumps, already drawing his weapon and aiming it. The guy comments that his perception is actually pretty good. Suddenly the great thief Tisai appears, asking whether pointing a weapon at others is the musketeer's greeting. Now, Ted realizes he was in stealth, and because of the level difference, he couldn't detect him with his attributes. He realizes that he is a great thief, which is the thieves' third class, and believes he is an NPC above level 500. Our boy apologizes and says he came with a recommendation from Instructor Raiden. The thief says he heard about the old master's disciple, and asks if someone like that is really offering to become a thief and cause trouble. He realizes the guy has quite a few skills, and even for a thief, the instructor is very different. Tri says they normally don't accept outsiders like him. Ted gets curious because he spoke in the plural. The instructor says he has good perception, but not enough to save his life. Our hero doesn't understand what's so funny, but the instructor toys with him, asking if he still hasn't noticed, and shows that potion he had been carrying. At that moment he gets annoyed while looking for it, and Tizai asks if he would like some advice. He explains that it's easy to steal from guys like him using a disguise scroll, especially if he isn't using an anti-theft item, but he thinks there's no point saying that to someone walking around in such a suspicious outfit. Tizai apologizes and says there's nothing to teach an idiot who doesn't even know what he lost or when he lost it. The thieves now decide to toast with the most delicious potion in the world, especially since it belongs to someone else. At that moment, our MC smiles, and the thieves' boss, upon drinking, is afflicted with paralysis. Just like everyone around him, they start throwing everything up. Very irritated, he asks whether the outsider put poison in the potion while drawing his weapon. The guy suggests that our MC was arrogant to do that, but says acting superior, the way he did doesn't make him special. Tizai suddenly becomes frightened and tense at what he sees, and giving the order to act, our protagonist summons his armed boys. It looks like the tables have turned, and the thieves are defeated on the ground. The guy gets tense, and can't believe how someone who doesn't even have a second class yet can be this strong. Tien tells him to stop talking nonsense and give him his second class already, and the boss has no choice but to acknowledge his skill. Our hero celebrates successfully getting the new skills, and is eager to test them. He uses the thievery skill on the boss, and fails. That leaves him a little surprised. Now that Ted is part of the group, the boss explains that to use it, he has to be in stealth, since no one is just going to stand there waiting to be robbed. He explains that he checks the result as soon as he uses it, based on the number of crowns. 1 crown means he failed, and was caught trying to steal from others. 2 crowns indicate success, but he is also seen stealing and becomes a target. Finally, 3 crowns mean a perfect theft. He manages to steal and still gains experience from it. The target and the environment influence success, and it is also affected by the stealth level. Our MC realizes how complex this is, and confirms with the instructor that it can only be used while in stealth. He activates stealth and tries to steal again, and is surprised that the boss is carrying only a few items. He decides to try the one with the highest chance of success. Ted steals a love letter, understanding how the skill works, but he gets curious about the letter and starts reading it. The boss gets worked up and tense, telling him to give it back and stop reading other people's things. Teasing the thief, Ted asks if he isn't going to help his new disciple, and Tian-sai says he'll let him win this time, since his skills impressed him. But when Tien keeps reading, the instructor gets desperate and asks what he is trying to do. Our protagonist says it's nothing personal. He just needs to quickly level up that skill. Sometime later, our hero watches someone in hiding, because he knew the target wouldn't give up his habits. He sees that blonde guy pressuring someone else. He realizes the guy tries to increase his profits outrageously, and when he can't, he takes people's items. On top of that, he tries to stay on good terms with the guards to keep himself in a comfortable position. At another moment, he notices that he uses an identity-concealing scroll, and it was just as Ted thought. That's the same guy from the black market. He understands that the guy takes the items he seized from others to sell them on the black market. Our protagonist watches the whole process, thinking there must be a flaw in such a messy operation. While watching from hiding, he sees him take out a book. It's the black market management book. Ted realizes the guy doesn't even trust the NPCs he recruits, realizing right after that, this is actually an opportunity to steal the book. Today will be the day of reckoning, and thanks to T-Sai, he managed to raise his skill level to the maximum. Without showing interest, he notices that the man has arrived, and he plays along, asking for a discount and arguing with the NPC who cannot grant it. Ted watches the masked man act. The guy writes everything down and says that if his employee doesn't improve, he'll replace him. Entering stealth, he believes this is his chance. He knows he has to succeed, because if he fails, everything will be over because of his crime rate. Moving closer, he tries. He sees a list of several items with a 100% success rate. Just like in the Thieves Guild, the theft rate increases 10 times when the target is using an identity-concealing scroll. When he looks at that book, the chance is only 10%. But when the item is placed in the inventory, it leaves the field of view, and the chance is increased 10 times again. And so, the big moment arrives, and our hero tries to steal it. He celebrates the success with 3 crowns, and also gains a lot of experience in the process. Now he tries to steal the guy's ID, and gets a total success again. He realizes he still has plenty of stealth time left, so he could steal more things to raise his level even further. But at that moment, he sees something that changes everything. He realizes he can steal Sauron's coins too. Suddenly, his mind is blown by this information, and he figures the guy must have gathered quite a lot of coins through the black market. And if he can get his hands on that, he'll also be able to get that lightning charge skill orb. So our MC keeps up his very dishonest work, farming a coin here and there, until he manages to gather 32 coins, since they don't always show up on the theft list. While watching the boss scold the stall guy, he thinks he still needs 8 more, and his time is running out. He approaches someone else and uses his skill, seeing a huge list of things to steal. By a stroke of luck, this target has exactly the 8 coins he still needs, but he remembers his instructor saying never to use it if the rate is below 90%, and in this case it's only 50%. Ted is at an impasse. He planned to steal the book to blackmail the guy and help his academy, and he wonders whether his amazing luck would let him succeed. Feeling determined, he thinks that if he succeeds this time, he'll get the skill orb. If he fails, his whole plan will go down the drain, but he thinks he has to take this chance, so he approaches his target and uses the theft skill. Very excited, he realizes he succeeded, and now he has the money to buy the orb. But at that moment, his target notices he was robbed and starts looking for the culprit. To his bad luck, the stealth time runs out right at that moment, and our hero appears right in front of his target. Very irritated, the masked man realizes it's the bearhead, asking if he's the thief who robbed him. Maybe Ted got a little too greedy. Then, pulling out a weapon, the masked man says he'll be his match tonight. Calling him a despicable thief, the boss tries to hit him with a magic rope, forcing our MC to use his skill to dodge. Ted is surprised by the skill, concludes his class must be guard, and that's why he negotiated so well with the other guards. That class was made to counter criminal classes, and gets lots of passive bonuses when facing a criminal. Our MC thinks fighting there is not a good idea, so he turns and runs while the masked man tells him to stop, cursing at him. His opponent tries to throw a spear at him, and also keeps using the rope, but our hero is very agile, and keeps leaping around, avoiding the attacks. He thinks our hero is as fast as a rat, and believes it'll be easy to corner him, since he has experience capturing criminals. He keeps following Ted through the streets, until they reach a kind of dead-end street, when he uses another skill to trap him. This time it seems he managed to catch our protagonist by the foot. Tien feels an energy run through his whole body. Meanwhile, the masked man sees the list of what was stolen and thinks our MC can only be a beginner to think it would be that easy. Smiling, our protagonist asks if he looks like a newbie, but the masked man just thinks he's a low-level guy acting tough after being cornered. So our hero explains that's not it, and that it would be troublesome to cause a scene in the middle of that place. Just as the man asks what he's talking about, he gets hit by a solid attack right in the middle of the chest. Now properly frightened, he realizes that with just one attack his HP has already dropped to half. Giving a thumbs up, our MC says he's played this more than that idiot, and starts vanishing with stealth. The masked man tenses up and uses an official duty skill, then he brings a whistle to his mouth. When he blows it, it cancels all criminal skills within 10 meters, making our little bear appear again. And right after that, the masked man summons an army of armored guards to join the fight. Ted thinks it would be easy to kill him, but this guard class can activate an alarm that alerts the other guards. Irritated, the man says our MC won't escape, and tells the guards to protect him, and also orders them to surround the damn bear. Smiling, Ted summons his goblins, and his squad of little thieves is on the scene. He orders them to ignore the masked man and destroy the guards. Without further delay, the shootout begins. Those goblins seem to be enjoying this a lot. The same can't be said for those guards. The masked man can't believe how much damage the goblins deal, and realizes he'll lose at this rate. So he activates Armored Drive, making all the armored guards charge at their target. Afraid, he mistakenly thinks this isn't about saving his life, but about recovering what the thief stole. So the guy throws himself into the middle of that battlefield, because to do that he needs to reach that bastard. But Ted, who isn't stupid, realizes the guy wants to use the evidence collection skill to recover the items. When the masked man gets close enough, he jumps and gets out of his range. Using his movement skill, he gets even farther away from that guy. But his opponent is persistent, and our hero decides to aim only for his legs. Then Ted fires, and hits the masked man square in the foot. Thinking he's got the upper hand, the man says that's useless, and refuses to give up. Ted tenses up, realizing the guy used his indomitable skill just like he does. At last, the boss touches him and uses the skill, while Ted stammers and tries to use his own to dodge. Tense but relieved, the masked man gets what he wanted. Smiling, he says Tien held out pretty well for a thief, but the little game is over now. But to his horror, our boy is holding another book, and with a smile asks, "Who said this was over?" Unable to believe what he is seeing, the masked man flips through his blank book. Tien asks if he really thought he wouldn't have a plan B, and at that moment the boss thinks of the duplication scroll. Ted confirms it mockingly. Our hero had bought it while watching his target in the black market. Very irritated, the masked man calls him a bastard. Ted explains that the guy can't take a copy, because he doesn't have ownership rights over the original. Desperate, The boss asks why he is doing this to him and who ordered him to do it. Angry, our boy says his behavior is really awful, and suggests he was going to report it to the Count's territory, leaving him worried. On top of that, he says it would be easy to kill him, but even so, he still wanted to have a calm talk. The masked man says he'll do anything if Tien doesn't report him, so Tien tells him to start by emptying his pockets. Sometime later, back at the Musketeer Academy, the instructor seems unable to believe what he is seeing. Our boy explains that he can pay the rent based on the old rates. Actually, he didn't seem very happy about that. And on top of that, our MC got the orb. Now he can make up for one of the Musketeer's weaknesses, which is area damage. Rayson kneels and gives thanks. He says he is truly grateful for saving the academy, and that from now on, he will treat him as his senior. Ted says that as a disciple there, it is only natural to want to do that, and suggests the instructor worked hard to protect the academy. Suddenly, the menu shows that he received an achievement called Righteous Thief, and he realizes it is a limit breaking. Limit breaking is an achievement that allows a skill to go beyond its limit, gaining additional effects. He wasn't expecting something that good, but it was great, and now that everything is finished, he can get ready to leave, since there are only 5 days left until the end of the test. Sometime later, our hero is looking sharp, with a new look, rare level 200 equipment, and now he is a marksman. Our MC doesn't know if it matches his mask, but the efficiency is much better. He knows that now, with lightning charge, he will be able to farm much better and soon cover his body in unique items. He thinks that now that he is at ease, these guys even look like little pups, and it would be nice if everything stayed peaceful. And at that moment he notices something is wrong. Things are going well for him, and that is not normal, but he tries to calm down, since lately he hasn't had any bad luck, and he can overcome anything with this. Plus 19 weapon. But while his little thugs were celebrating, a menu appears saying there has been a change in the date of the PASF war. Ted is startled to see a different warning window. He feels the ground fall out from under him, when he realizes all his efforts were in vain, because the war starts in 2 days. He thrashes on the ground in outrage, because he had barely managed to get organized with the date. His goblins get upset, but suddenly, they get excited, and they start thrashing on the ground like their master, leaving our hero irritated and scolding them. He cries, thinking things were going well, and once again his bad luck shows up. Raiden approaches, asking what his senior is doing on the ground. He says it is about that suspicious cloud from earlier, and that the Count ordered its complete destruction. He says that with the war, they are selecting only the elite currently in the territory, then asks if Ted would like to join them. But the young man thinks he cannot leave the castle because he is in the middle of his class change. Then Rayson gets excited, as he says he used his authority to allow him to go without any problem. With his head full of problems, our hero accepts the quest request. Then his instructor thanks him and says he will prepare his belongings so he can depart. Ted realizes that at this point, it is as if he is being forced to throw himself into the middle of this war. But since he is being forced to take part, if anyone gets in his way, no matter who it is, they will be crushed into the ground. Elsewhere, a group arrives at Sauron, and one of them says that is where they will meet Ted for the first time. The girls are a little discouraged, because they think he might simply no longer be around there. The girl with glasses draws Big Brother's attention to the war that is coming. They realize they will be stuck there, but the redhead thinks she noticed something different, suggesting they join the war from the other side, though it seems only she is excited about that. The armored one asks whether Ted is not hostile to the PASF, but she replies that it does not matter which side they enter from. She explains that the goal is to find him, so during the war they can betray whichever side they are on and switch sides. So now fully awake, the group heads excitedly toward the chaos of that war. Our hero and his instructor arrive at the city entrance. Ted wasn't buying it, but they really did gather people level 500 or higher there, and that is pretty impressive. Someone approaches, commenting that the academy is kind of on its last legs. That is Hekatan, the master of the Warriors Academy. And the guy says that for someone to call a costumed idiot senior, things must be really bad. Ted believes this guy is on the same level as that other musketeer who was his fan and attacked him the other day. Enraged, Raisin tells Hekatan to shut up, because this is the savior of his academy. But the warrior keeps mocking him and says it's a miracle that that abandoned academy is still standing. But Rasen is furious and says that if the guy keeps insulting his senior, he'll make sure he can't speak anymore. Irritated, Hekatan draws his weapon, asking if the man is challenging him. Another man approaches and says this is not the time for them to waste energy on each other. That is the master of the Sorcerer's Academy, and he adds that he hopes the Academy Masters can set an example for everyone. The two are not very pleased, taking jabs at each other, but they eventually back down. Tien realizes that the only impressive thing about them really is their level. Raisin apologizes for him being treated that way, but our boy doesn't take it to heart. In any case, his only goal is to level up by taking care of all these monsters. Finally, that powerful group arrives at Area 4 of the Plains of Sauron. They personally observe that suspicious cloud, and the dim-witted warrior asks if it might just be an ordinary cloud. Ted thinks it is closer, but it could just be his imagination. With his observation stat increased, he manages to see the rotten monarch. The sorcerer thinks the monster may have recognized them and started moving. Alarmed, he realizes it is smarter than he imagined and wants to finish this quickly, without giving them any chances. Then he fires off a powerful flaming attack, and while the warrior sucks up to him, he seems worried about something. With a look of deep terror, he realizes that suspicious cloud is falling. Red eyes and laughter come from it, leaving not only the sorcerer uneasy, but the rest of the group as well. Suddenly, several creatures emerge from the cloud, and the group realizes that an army of undead is now coming toward them. Our hero prepares his mosquito bullet and summons his platoon of goblin shooters. Ted orders the mosquito to stay close, while the goblins are to fire without hitting the NPCs. Having given all the instructions, he gives the order to start firing, and projectiles fly in all directions. The others realize that our MC is quite skilled, and that makes them curious about who he is. The warrior grows concerned when he confirms the rumors that this guy is stronger than Raiden. He wonders how many he has already taken down and what those goblins beside him are. Satisfied with how things are going, our MC keeps leveling up non-stop. Some members of the group get into trouble and cry out for help. Our hero really thinks there are too many, and even for a boss monster, summoning all these mobs must have cost a lot of mana. For Ted, that is great because he gains more XP, but the warrior is worried about whether they will be able to finish this. So he charges forward, brandishing his weapon with force, saying that he will take care of that cloud himself. Ted worries that the warrior will get in the way of his plan, and while watching the guy leap over the monsters, he wonders if he should eliminate him himself. That guy jumps, and uses a skill called 9 Dragon Strike. He comes down striking with his weapon. Suddenly, some tentacles start rising up and drawing near. Those things begin to wrap around him and restrain him. To his despair, Raiden and a disciple shout the man's name when they realize it, but in the next moment he is surrounded by the monsters. Tien wonders what happened, and now that powerful warrior is inside a crystal, completely captured. Inside it, he begins to change and take the form of an undead. Our hero realizes the quest's difficulty has gone up, and now he will need to defeat the Arch-Neksh, in addition to destroying the cloud completely. Suddenly, from inside the crystal, red eyes shine, and that powerful warrior now becomes the Arch-Lich that must be defeated for the quest. Everyone is astonished that the monster is using an NPC as a host. One of the warriors says that his master has become a monster and needs to be eliminated now. Raiden asks all the shooters to focus on the crystal, and the group follows his command. Even focusing their damage on that crystal, it seems to take no damage at all. The group does not know what to do, asking the Viscount for orders, while the sorcerer thinks that not even the elite there is enough, and that they will not be able to save Heikatan, so they need to avoid losing this fight. Finally, he gives the order for everyone to retreat. But at that moment, the place is filled with a barrage of lightning that goes straight toward the crystal, and finally manages to deal some damage to it. The sorcerer is confused about who managed to do that, realizing it was our protagonist, who is now waiting for his weapon, which is boiling hot, to cool down a little. Ted realizes his level is going up just fine, and that getting that skill orb was well worth it. Then the sorcerer asks everyone to listen and help the outsider, but Tien is not very happy about that, because just now, when he was leveling up nicely, a bunch of people show up to help him or get in his way, depending on how you look at it. So he decides to use the skill again to crush that crystal, and shortly after, all that remains are shards of the crystal, causing the Arch-Lich to now be free. Our hero says that now that monster can be hit, and the group wants not only to bring the monster down, but also to save Heikatan. While he is being attacked, the menu shows that the monster has managed to absorb about 30% of the warrior's body. A voice says that body rotted and died 200 years ago, and the menu says the leech has been reborn incompletely. Tien tenses up when he realizes the monster can revive with only 30%. Finally, the monster says that if it can neither die nor live, it will make all of them the same. It charges forward, ordering the humans to die with it, leaving some members of the group terrified as they realize it is swelling up. The next moment, that monster is enormous, and it orders its army to show everyone its will. A warrior warns the group to be careful, because these undead approaching are different from the others. Then he is attacked and hit for not being completely focused on the fight, being afflicted with a corrosion debuff that will consume his HP. Raisin orders them not to let the monsters get close or touch them directly. At that moment, a projectile flies past and hits its target, while on the other side, our protagonist realizes the creature took no damage. He thinks this boss is a core type, with separated cores, so they will need to find where that core is located. Tien tells the sorcerer his suspicions, and the old man, of course, agrees to help with his plan. The sorcerer uses Blizzard Storm, causing ice projectiles to rain down on the creature, hitting the monster in several places. He tells our hero to move in, and at that moment, several projectiles pierce through the monster, riddling it with holes. Looking through his scope, he finally manages to find the core, and panics when he realizes the core is moving and hiding. Distracted, he does not notice the attack coming his way, and ends up getting hit. He gets annoyed again at his bad luck, because now he is afflicted with the debuff. He dodges other attacks and moves forward, but feels that something is wrong. He notices that the monster is clearly taking damage, but it neither blocks nor dodges. He wonders if it might be in a state where it cannot move. Ted starts thinking about the NPC having been used as a host and seems to get an idea. He asks his instructor to buy him some time together with the goblins, leaving him curious about what he is going to do. But without answering, our protagonist rushes toward the boss. He remembers the thieves' leader explaining to him that some things are hard to steal, and others are very easy. Tien uses that pile of ice to climb the monster. Items left outside the inventory are one thing, but those left where they cannot be moved are another matter. And with that, Ted reaches the monster and uses his stealing skill, realizing that the monster's black heart is on the steal list, and that this will be how he can defeat the creature. Ted tries to stay confident, believing this will work, and even if it does not work, with the mana he has, he can try to steal at least about 20 times. Finally, he touches the monster and activates the skill, but to his surprise, nothing happens, meaning our MC failed. Upset, he thinks, of course, as if my plans ever work. Then he thinks about his luck. He grabs it while it tries to defend itself, but Ted does not forgive it, asking how 15% can fail 18 times, and beats it up, telling it to cut it out. When he finishes, he says that if it fails again, he will not be so nice. Finally, he tries one more time, getting a partial success, and the monster's body starts to crumble. His companions notice this, while his instructor watches him proudly. Our hero not only goes up 21 levels, but also earns titles for defeating a monster over 200 levels above him using only stealing. On top of everything he got, the most impressive thing is that that heart is a skill orb. That is a chronicle material, and it can create a new skill that does not even exist in the current system. Our protagonist intends to give it to Brahmin later, and get something legendary. Yes, that mythical blacksmith god he met before. While he is happy with the best reward he has ever gotten, it seems something is making the group very sad. The Master of Warriors does not seem to have recovered. Ted knows that, unlike players, NPCs disappear forever when they die, keeping a certain realism in the game. And today was the day Hecatan, the Academy Master and Knight, was erased from the continent. Elsewhere, someone says they are very sorry about what happened to Hecatan. That is Count Sauron, who is reading something and questioning whether it really happened that way. It said that a single outsider defeated the monster, something the entire elite together could not do. The sorcerer confirms the story, suggesting that they need him for the siege war that will happen soon. Of course, Count Sauron believes the sorcerer, but for now he only wants to observe. That man is confused by this, but the Count asks whether he trusts outsiders. That makes him stammer on the spot. Then Sauron says that outsiders act according to their own interests. Some try to take his lands through war, and some complete missions to get rewards. Sauron suggests that the boy may be able to end the war, as the sorcerer said, but the problem would be the compensation for that, because the reward for those participants is much greater than that of those who are simply recruited. Besides that, because of the problems with the PASF, the economy has not been doing very well. The old man is afraid he won't be able to afford the reward if the boy saves the country on his own. Come on. And they might even have to hand over the entire county as a reward, which makes the sorcerer tense. So Sauron wants to think it over more carefully. Despite having lost Hecatan, he asks whether there are no longer any major threats now. In the camp, someone says the magic formation is ready, and that they must have everything prepared, because tomorrow will be the nearest of battle. The head of the PASF is irritated, because he sold his car and his house to prepare that army with the Lich, and it has already been defeated. And he has no intention of going back to the time when he did questionable things in front of the camera to make a living. Rowan had been upset about not completing the mission, so he got another third-rate person. But that doesn't seem to be enough. Tienso thinks he heard there was a hidden NPC master in Sauron, but no matter how much he searches, there is no NPC above level 650. He realizes there are variables he didn't know about, and then an armored guy walks in asking if the captain is tense. Embarrassed, he says there's no way he could be nervous, since ranked players from the Great Japanese Empire are there in person. The guy laughs, saying that's just like him. That is Tanichi, and he is level 672. A woman appears saying he is too loud, while the man says the priestess is far too demanding. That is Ruri, a level 685 shaman, and she insists that he is way too noisy. The head of the PASF feels reassured to have two top-ranked siege specialists by his side, but even so, there is still a chance that the guy who killed the Lich is on the Count's side. He says he heard the Lich didn't cause much damage because it was defeated early, leaving Ruri a little surprised. Then the guy admits he is a little worried, and the girl laughs, saying Chaobei has no reason to worry. She says that this Lich dies easily if there is proper coordination, and she didn't have high expectations for it anyway. Even so, he still isn't very convinced. Then the woman asks if he can see the cursed tattoo below her ear. He asks what it means, and the guy replies that it is the number of territories they conquered under her leadership. The boss tries to calm himself, because there's no way they can lose with these people there, and besides, life is about enjoying every moment. Excited, the warrior says they can go all out now, and he hopes there is a worthy opponent on the other side. Suddenly, Ruri says that since the war begins tomorrow, she would like to make a prophecy first. In 3 days, they will be dining at the count's table right after tearing his flag into tiny little pieces. Now the siege is in place, and the war is about to begin. A guard says the enemies are channeling mana into a magic formation. Another guy who looks like a sorcerer says they set up barriers against that, so he wants to know what the problem is. It seems they are all support spells, and that leaves the guy genuinely surprised. They do not really understand why they are using support magic on such a large scale. A younger mage says everything indicates they are focusing it all on just one person, and wonders why they would use such an inefficient method. Suddenly, they are interrupted by a shout coming from the field, and an armored warrior approaches, telling them to stop him if they can. Everyone notices that it is just one person coming alone. Somewhat worried, the soldier orders them to fire the cannons and spells first. Smiling, the warrior activates his skill Azure Dragon's Blessing, and an energy spreads through his whole body, enveloping his armor. The next moment, he is hit by cannons and spells, but everyone realizes he did not even flinch, leaving the defenders stammering about whether they were sure they had hit the target. Without any more messing around, the warrior runs toward the walls. Frightened, the mage orders an ice barrier to be made, while the soldier orders more cannon fire. With his eyes glowing, the warrior activates Azure Dragon Charge, charging forward in the form of a blue dragon even faster. He makes a move with his weapon, hitting the barrier protecting the entrance and shattering it completely. The mage realizes he destroyed it with a single attack, and the soldier asks for the Lord's orders, since the gate is about to fall. Desperate, he orders them to prepare more spells, because they need to bring him down with even stronger magic. More cannon fire and spells hit the warrior, only for them to realize they had absolutely no effect on him. The Lord says he will hold him off as long as he can, and orders them to go to the Count and inform him about this. Tinichi makes a huge leap toward the castle and says, "I want to see how long you can hold out." Sometime later, Sauron is surprised to be informed that the gate is being smashed to pieces. He says the spells have no effect, and on top of that, their mana will run out, so they may end up having to abandon the wall. He suggests that the Count should not act on his own, but all he wants to know is whether there was someone with a musket outside the wall. His agitated subordinate says he will report the attacker's formation, but that is not really what the old man wants. Sauron knows the outsider cannot leave the territory, and questions why he still has not entered the fight. He is worried that they have such a powerful foreigner available, and also about the possibility of that boy joining the attackers. Finally, he gives the order for them to go to the academy and bring the outsider Ted there. In the real world, our hero sees some nonsense first thing in the morning. He realizes that those PASF idiots took several territories overnight. Ted gets irritated about having his level reset and going through hell, while others are out there living easy, but he thinks getting angry won't get him anywhere. He figures they won't have time to worry about him or anything else. He believes they might get so busy with the war that they wouldn't notice if he showed up there a few times. So he goes back into the game, and right away, Raiden is looking for him. He then hands over the class change completion certificate. He also says that the Count is looking for him, saying that the situation seems much worse than it first appeared. As they walk, he talks about that badass warrior attacking the walls, but Tien asks about the area's elite group, and Raiden says the rumors are that they didn't even scratch the warrior, which gets our MC excited. He realizes they brought in a high-level guy, it seems, and it looks like his plan is going more smoothly than he expected. A while later, our hero is taken to the Lord. Then Ted steps forward, introducing himself and placing himself at the Count's disposal. Sauron asks whether our MC already knows about the situation, and of course Raiden has already taken care of that. So, skipping that part, Sauron offers him a quest to join the territory, and our hero is excited about it. Tien doesn't really believe in luck, but he accepts that everything happening is the result of his hard work. The question now is how he could make the most of this, so he asks the Count if he could make just one request. Ted says he intends to shoot at the foreigner from outside the wall, and adds, 100. Our protagonist says he'll definitely solve the problem, so he wants him to provide 100 magic users. As he climbs the stairs, our little bear says that everyone there is the key to victory, so he's counting on them. He asks them to focus on restoring his mana and reducing his cooldown time, and to leave the rest to the big bear over there. The mages confirm that they understand, even though they're a little tense. From up there, Tien notices the chaos and that they're not messing around. He also notices a badass warrior covered in blue armor. After assessing the whole situation, he comes to the conclusion that there's a guy like that in Japan. He believes it's Tanichi, a ranker from a guild called Great Japanese Empire. Even though it's not as big as CGTV or Alibaba, it's still big. He doesn't understand why they're helping PASF, but that's none of his business either. That guy is a monstrous ranker in the ranking world, and he'll be great for testing his skills. With that, he asks the magic users to begin the support, and of course the mages start the process. The preparations are made, and our protagonist receives a whole bunch of support magic from his new allies. Then it's time to make an attempt against those PASF bastards. He fires a charged shot at the camp, and that electrified shot spreads through the area, letting them hear the screams from far away. The PASF leader is surprised that someone can attack from afar with such a powerful skill. As he gets ready, a menu shows the score he's earned so far for joining the war. Tien looks at his weapon with satisfaction, thinking about what black and white means to him. He remembers when he got the orb he thought was trash, but through his synergy with it, he defeated Rowan, thanks to his +19 weapon. And even this war he tried to avoid might hold the answer to his bad luck. But at that moment, his luck asks if he understands, and says he has already used up all his luck. The luck of his life was used on that +19 weapon, and it will be the key to everything still to come in his life. But since holding the key doesn't open the lock, he needs to use it properly. Finally, Ted thanks the god of luck for the advice. With a handshake, Ted agrees not to blame him every time he has a bit of bad luck. The warrior laughs, thinking there's some kind of commotion going on outside. But the boss is pretty irritated, since he's lost 20% of his troops in 1 hour of war. That guy is enjoying himself quite a bit, and says he was surprised to see a shooter with such a powerful level in that skill. Irritated, the boss thinks the guy is an idiot and doesn't care about the rest. Then Ruri arrives saying she's surprised too, and the boss says that if this keeps up, they'll have to change strategies. She comments that they're stronger than they imagined, and so they can't just sit around and wait for everything to work itself out. Very tense, Chow believes the girl has a plan. Ruri says Tanichi was supposed to break the gate and invade tomorrow, but since the situation changed, now they won't have a choice. Picking up a little bag, she comments that she doesn't know who this shooter is, and with a slightly crazy look adds that this parasitic is really fun. Tien is eager to test his lightning skill, which has just reached 100% proficiency. He realizes that his skill is the expandable type, and some options have opened up for him. Unable to contain himself, he gets really excited just imagining what kind of skill this one will become. The sorcerer brings him back to reality, warning him that the enemies are rushing. Tense and surprised, he wonders why the guys suddenly decided to start acting like this. The wizard orders everyone to defend the castle using magic, arrows, and anything else they have. He says there must be a reason for this, and suggests they not defend it head-on, since there may be some unknown variables. Our hero agrees with the old man, because without Indomitable, just one well-placed attack from Tianchi could finish him off. At that moment, a guard panics, because the warrior in blue armor has returned and is already standing before the gate. The guy laughs, believing he'll be hit by his own allies' attacks. Amused, determined to crush them all, Tianchi raises his sword and uses Azure Dragon Blessing again. Ted notices it's a unique +7 item, and finally confirms the identity of the guy he had already suspected. He even recognizes that powerful A-rank skill called Azure Dragon Blessing. Meanwhile, the warrior goes on the attack, and Tien knows that skill works by converting the damage it receives into attack power. The soldiers say nothing is working against the warrior, so the Lord orders everyone to fall back to the inner wall. He then suggests our hero retreat to the inner wall as well, but something interrupts him, leaving him surprised. Our MC is focused, taking aim, because this is a great moment to test how much he has managed to grow. The moment Azure Dragon Blessing disappears, it'll be time to find out how many shots the human battering ram Tanichi can withstand. The warrior starts taunting them, asking how long they plan to keep hiding there. That old man insists they should retreat, but at that moment our hero thinks, now, and fires a powerful attack at that guy in blue armor. He lands a direct hit on Tanichi, who only screams. The guy doesn't understand why he took damage, as he looks at his wrecked shoulder guard, but soon after he realizes his opponent timed it perfectly to hit him. Using a voice transmission artifact, he warns his partner that they've found the lightning user. Tanichi gives Ruri the exact coordinates, and she is already using a skill. A huge eye opens in the sky, causing a curse that will lower attributes in that area. Ted notices an attack forming, and realizes they've discovered his position. When those attacks hit the wall, our MC uses a skill and jumps off it. He keeps dodging while considering whether he should also retreat to the inner wall. Things only get worse for our bear, and he realizes the girl is good. At the last moment, he manages to dodge another one of her attacks, but a third one hits him dead on, taking away practically half his life. Ted tries to use his weapon, and realizes a curse is preventing him from doing so. Tense, he realizes that is a skill that triples another one, and that can only be the work of a ranker sorceress. With his weapon like this, everything he had planned becomes much harder. Entering stealth, he decides he will observe the situation and regroup with the Count's forces. A soldier shouts that the gate is about to break, and in the next moment the enemy army manages to invade the fortress. Ted thinks he can't give up on this experience, so he summons his mosquito bullets and also his squad of goblin marksmen. Nearby, that group seems somewhat uneasy about the area they're passing through, but the red-haired girl just wants to be able to see Ted. Rowan believes that lightning attack is Ted's, because it looks a lot like what he saw. Even though the scale and damage are far above normal, he is sure it's a musketeer's area attack. The warrior says it's strange, because it looks like a D-rank skill, but Rowan comments that it was hard for him to believe too, explaining that Lord Ted defeated him when he was only level 150, and he believes the boy has some kind of secret weapon. Anyway, the young man believes he must be somewhere nearby, when he notices a body on the ground that seems to have had its life drained. Looking at it, he realizes there are no wounds, and it doesn't seem like someone simply drained his life. One of the girls grows uneasy about it, while Rowan explains that high-level skills like that wouldn't appear in a beginner area, and it doesn't seem like it was a monster either. The drained guy on the ground manages to say goblin with difficulty. This intrigues the group, because they know there are no goblins in that area, but the guy remembers that fight with our MC and realizes that if there are goblins there, it's probably Ted. But at that moment he is struck hard from behind, leaving the group even more surprised that the guy went down from just one attack. The red-haired girl uses a protection spell on the group. They talk about the attack, and conclude that such a powerful strike could only have come from Lord Ted. She believes it was an honorable death, and is jealous of him. Sometime later, they are standing before the group allied with Ted. Rayson points his weapon at them, asking how only 3 of them dare approach like this. She steps forward, leaving the instructor surprised, and raising her hands she says they are surrendering, and want to join the Count's side. The rest of the group says the penalty for that is severe, but it doesn't matter if they can see Lord Ted, adding that this still isn't over. The group continues searching for Lord Ted. The head of PASF is furious when he sees in the notifications that those people left his faction. He shouts angrily, asking why they are leaving his faction. He orders them to bring Rowan there, and tense, he notices that the young man is already dead. Rory asks where they disappeared to, and he tells Tiantia that Mr. Monster's level isn't higher than theirs, but his attack power is superior. He suggests the boy not push himself so hard, but Tianti walks off laughing, saying that's disappointing. The guy asks if Rory doesn't trust him and adds that holding back wouldn't be fun, since that is an opponent worth facing. She smiles, understanding the situation, and believes it will be a really cool scene to watch. Everyone against one monster, making her eager to see how this fight unfolds. An attack comes in very fast, hitting one of the mages. Tien focuses on the attack while thinking that even third-class users go down with just one headshot. Even though he's hidden, he thinks someone might have a skill to detect him, so he has to be careful. He believes that if he takes down the PASF's third-class members, the war is as good as won, but through his sights he notices an attack, and uses his skill to dodge that crescent blade at the last second. Tinichi comes running, asking how long he plans to stay hidden, and tells him to show himself and fight. Our MC doesn't understand, since a tank shouldn't have a skill to detect him, but it seems he figured out why. To his dismay, he realizes the guy has a detection orb attached to his weapon. Excited for the imminent battle, Tianchi charges forward, saying he won't be able to run anymore. He uses his triple binding blade, and 3 blades fly toward our protagonist. He tenses up at the attack because he knows that with the level gap between them, if he gets hit he's done for. Ted struggles to avoid the attacks and keeps dodging them one after another. He manages to avoid death, but knows he needs to resolve this situation quickly. At that moment, Tianchi finds his target. Meanwhile, our MC tries to calculate how many hits he needs to bring the warrior down. Tense from the situation, our little bear realizes he needs about 6 headshots to break this deadlock. The problem now is creating an opening for that, because even a ranker must have a weak point. Impatient, Tianchi uses his triple attack again, and those deadly blades fly toward our hero. Tien watches the situation and realizes that he doesn't move right after using that skill. He wonders if it's some kind of side effect. It seems he's affected by a stiffness status, and right after that he always uses another skill, following a set pattern. Then Tien realizes he can use those patterns against his opponent. Tinichi, meanwhile, stays fired up and charges again, apparently doing what he does best. Triple binding blade. But now our MC is ready and dodges, then immediately takes to the air. The warrior laughs, saying there's still one left, but our protagonist was expecting that, and now it's actually his moment. Smiling, he takes aim and uses his lightning charge skill, firing a powerful attack at his target. That blast cuts through the space between them, leaving Tinichi genuinely worried for the first time. A huge chain of lightning spreads through the area, buying Ted a little time to get away from danger. Tinichi laughs, saying he fell into the trap. Now wounded, he admits he's never seen a musketeer with such a strong attack, but he declares that the game is over now. The warrior uses Azure Dragon Domain, and a dome with several dragons appears, making it impossible for anyone to escape from inside. Next he uses 100 Blade Strike. What a surprise, he finally changed his attack. A barrage of slashes appears in the air, blowing everything around him apart, and Ted realizes he wasn't the target. What the guy wants is to destroy every possible place he could hide. Tien combos with his charge skill, and, getting close enough, strikes, saying he's got him, but in front of him is a goblin, desperate at the size of the attack. The warrior is confused to find a goblin there. Even so, he finishes his attack on the spot. Stealthily, our favorite bear is already behind him, using another skill and firing at his overconfident target. He lands a critical headshot, gaining a 94% damage bonus. Tianchi is surprised that a musketeer would use a goblin summon, but decides it ends there, using shattering blade strike at point-blank range on our protagonist. Ted thinks things have gotten crazy now, and that he needs 3 or 4 more bullets. He uses Indomitable to withstand the attack, but knows his only chance is to go all in. While he was planning what to do, Tenichi grabs him by the arm and asks if Teddy Bear would like a free hug. The warrior taunts him, saying he couldn't endure it with just Indomitable. And our hero realizes that even with the extra defense, he's losing 1% HP with every punch. Tenichi tells the lightning boy that this is the end now, but Ted shoots back, saying it's not over yet. He fires point blank into the face of the guy mocking him, saying victory is his as he recovers his health through yet another skill. Tenichi says it was a good fight while a mosquito lands on his neck, and our protagonist mocks him while recovering his health, saying he talks like he already won. The warrior realizes in shock that our MC stole his life. Then both of them crash to the ground hard, with Ted on top. Tenichi realizes he was tricked and thinks Ruri is going to beat him up again. He starts laughing, apologizing to Ruri, and saying the monster is a guy wearing a bear mask, while to Ted's surprise, he hugs him tightly, pinning him down. The warrior says he'll send the guy to the battlefield, and with that says goodbye as he uses his charge skill. He rushes forward at incredible speed, laughing a lot, but without letting go of our protagonist. Ted realizes the guy is trying to reveal his position and decides to attack him again to put an end to it. Landing the perfect shot, he falls in despair while his powerful opponent starts to disappear. Nearby, the shaman thanks him for bringing the boy to her and thinks that Tenichi is strong, but the kid still lacks a certain refinement. Luckily, she notices the bear is far from his allies. Then she uses a domain-type skill called Sage Domain. First, she uses a spell to hold him in place, and in the area where he fell, a huge dome forms. With an anxious look, she says that now is the time to finish this, using a skill to summon a demon. A dreadful creature appears. It is a low-level demon. Even so, compared to everyone else, its level is still quite high. Far too excited about this, she now uses Parasitic Grand Curse, while that monster says it will make good use of our MC's body. From afar, Ted watches a creature in the air with a cloud full of hands, more like tentacles, but he realizes it's the same effect that stole Hecaten's body before, and that leaves him deeply worried. So he decides to get out of that place first, but he runs straight into that magic barrier Ruri had created. Tense, he wonders if this is a barrier, and while he shoots at it, that mass of bizarre hands quickly approaches him. Ting knows that if he gets caught by this skill, he's screwed. So in desperation, he fires his weapon at those grotesque things. To his dismay, he realizes that no matter how much he shoots, there's no end to it. So all that's left is to use his area lightning skill. But too late, he realizes he's out of mana, and gets grabbed by those disgusting little hands. Even though he tries to avoid it, he can't break free from those tentacles. The demon drags him closer against his will, while our protagonist can only scream. Shocked, he realizes he's losing control of his body, just like what happened to Hecaton, and he cannot accept that this is how he'll end, after everything he's done. Ruri, meanwhile, notices something strange. That demon should have had 5 horns, and she doesn't understand why only one has grown. Seeing a bunch of terminals appear, she wonders what is going on there. Ted realizes that Samshon, the liberator of the sun, is inside his soul and trying to resist that demon's control. Some other guys nearby wonder what's going on, whether that might be a demon in the sky. As the creature comes flying in, everyone grows uneasy and afraid of the situation. When it reaches 33%, the demon finally manages to take control of the host, and pointing his firearm-shaped arm, he fires at the army. The soldiers scream in desperation, telling everyone to get away from that monster. A huge explosion happens at the point of impact. Ted goes mad over this and realizes that although the monster is attacking on its own, his resistance is increasing little by little. For now, he'll have to watch that stupid demon act, at least until his resistance reaches 100%. The creature lets out a terrifying roar, and in there, our hero realizes its intention. The monster starts walking toward the Count's territory. Ted shouts for that demon to stop, but it just ignores him and points its huge weapon in that direction, firing an enormous cannonball toward the city. That demon that used to be our hero wreaks havoc in the city. It keeps firing, while the soldiers shout, warning that the outsider has turned into a demon. Someone approaches, saying he'll handle it himself, and to everyone's surprise, the Count orders everyone there to follow him, taking the lead. Our protagonist tries to fight with all his strength, shouting from within, saying that those are their people. Then he notices some familiar faces there. He recognizes them as Rowan's group, while wondering if they had perhaps defected to their side. However, the demon fires at them, and our hero can only ask for forgiveness. That group wonders if it might be Lord Ted, but tense they realize that Bullet is heading their way. A huge explosion happens. At the moment Ted regains his movement, but this is no time to celebrate. He needs to take the best possible action before he loses control again. He knows he can't avoid attacking, so before he goes berserk again, he's going to find a way to reach the PSF side. Using 1,000-mile step, he shoots toward his enemy's camp. On the way, he opens his inventory and takes out a red potion. Glad he didn't sell that berserker potion earlier. Tien manages to reach the middle of the PSF camp and now all that's left is to go into a rage again. He absorbs that potion, crushing it in his hands. Then, at that very moment, it takes effect, sending our protagonist into berserker mode. From below, Ruri watches him in confusion. She wonders whether the boy managed to keep his sanity and tense, tries to create a defensive barrier. But from above, our demonic bear growls and fires a huge shot toward the girl. With the look of someone who knows she's done for, she just watches it without reacting. And the biggest explosion of all happens in the PASF camp. Our Ted is seriously pissed off and starts attacking everything and everyone around him. Gunfire and explosions spread throughout the camp. Meanwhile, the boss, in despair, thinks he lost the war and his fortune because of the teddy bear. Ted, he can't believe he lost the war to a marksman. Meanwhile, Ted couldn't care less and is enjoying his uncontrolled fury to the very last drop. But suddenly, the potion's effect wears off. And now calmer, he wonders if he was responsible for all that destruction. At last, Samcheon, the Sun Liberator, reached 100% resistance. But what has him puzzled is that pile of notification windows popping up. Something strange happens. Since Samcheon's skill is D rank, it couldn't dispose of the demon's body. The terminal shows that it will take about 12 days for the body to be eliminated, and Ted realizes that, in the end, he became a boss, like Hecatan before him. But he also realizes that he gained a bunch of titles, and a new attribute called Presence was even added. This attribute improves efficiency while hidden, and Ted never imagined he'd get something like that. The terminal shows that he gained it because of the number of people he eliminated in a single day, and of course our hero confirms the acquisition. With the attribute created, it's time to check the rest of the windows, but that is not good at all, because his crime rate increased, and an execution order was issued by the kingdom. Ted is surprised to see that the next one shows his status is now that of a boss monster in the city. Nearby soldiers tell the count that they need to eliminate the outsider who turned into a demon. The old man grows thoughtful, while someone suggests that this is the best time to do it. At that moment, Raiden approaches, asking to have a word with His Excellency. The instructor says it was Ted who saved them, and his transformation is like Hecatan's, so attacking him makes no sense. The others get upset with him, telling him to separate personal matters from public ones. But Raiden defends himself by explaining that isn't it, and he adds that inside Ted's body, there is a hidden power that no demon can surpass. Sometime later, he looks over that ruined scene, thinking that, although he doesn't know how, he has the impression that Ted's consciousness remained intact. He remembers several moments he spent with our hero, and feels very grateful that he helped the academy, and also the territory of Sauron. With tears in his eyes, he gives thanks and says he hopes to meet him again someday. Meanwhile, a major conference of the Great Japanese Empire Guild is taking place. Ruri was worried about the respawn period, since it could make her late, while her partner only hopes he can meet the bear Ted again. She knows the mission in Sauron's territory failed, but hopes they won't have problems, since several others were successful. Then a guy approaches, commenting that it had been a while since he'd seen those two. That is Musashi, second in the rankings, who asks why Tanichi seems more excited than usual. The warrior steps forward and says he found a truly wonderful opponent. Ruri, meanwhile, is puzzled that the guy resisted her curse, wondering what kind of abilities he might have. A voice says that, since everyone is already there, they can begin the assembly. Meanwhile, our hero runs across the field, upset that he can't receive his war points or his rewards. Considering that he'll be hunted by anyone who finds him, the only thing left is to go to another country and start over. At the assembly, the person in charge says he believes all of them have had the same concern at least once. Namely, the reason why they still are not among the 7 greatest guilds. This is Tokichiro, the guildmaster of Great Japanese Empire. The guy explains that it's because their power was divided, but now the 5 guilds have already reached sufficient power, and it's time to unite all that power. He explains that for that, they need a common enemy, and although they failed in Sauron's territory, they managed to maintain a presence in Charon's territories. Therefore, that will be the route they use to conquer those territories. He explains that the time to conquer those territories has come, rising to become the 8th greatest guild in the world. Excited and full of determination, he says he will start with the kingdom of Pixie, and apparently our hero will be involved with that territory soon. A pig-like monster is slain, and right behind it comes a duo commenting that, just as posted, the place really is very good for hunting. The guy comments that they were given free information about this hunting ground, and a new boss to face. They comment that sharing information is a good thing, and besides that, it seems the Holy Knights Guild is also around there. Rumors say the bastards from PASF started a war in Sauron, and lost, so now they're ruined. One of them asks whether he should join a guild, but his partner says that type would probably force him to follow their standards. That young man has no idea who spread the information, but he notices that many flies have gathered there because of it. When, all of a sudden, he is struck square in the face by an attack, leaving his soldiers terrified that the vice commander was defeated with a single attack. This boy gets scared, asking whether some sniper might have followed them there. But the leader tells everyone to stay calm, because the post mentioned that the boss attacked from a distance. The next instant, that old man seems to see something that terrifies him. From atop the trees, a huge demonic bear appears, shouting, The old man says that's the boss, and orders them to prepare for the raid. While the supports began using their magic, the leader ordered the sorcerers to restrain that creature. They obey the order, and several magical chains appear and wrap around the boss at the same instant. Without wasting any time, the old man charges forward, striking with his weapon. The monster screams, feeling the attack, and at last it seems to have been defeated. The guild members get excited that the commander handled it, even though it was a shame the vice commander died. But after taking a good look, they notice the monster is unharmed, and the next moment, it is already awake and roaring again. With a single movement, it breaks free from the chains, leaving the guild guys shocked by that, and also by the fact that it does not even have a scratch. Now it is the demon bear's turn, and it keeps firing non-stop at its targets. Agitated, the commander orders the mercenaries to get ready to fire. But when he looks at the battlefield, he sees only the bodies of his comrades. Terrified, he thinks it has not even been 5 minutes since this started, and the whole guild has already been wiped out, and it looks like the old man will meet the same end. Someone survived. One of the guys who was in the area runs for his life. Desperate, he thinks the guilds can go to hell, because he already earned plenty of XP there, and cannot die. A body makes him stop, and he realizes it is the body of the first guy who ran away. The guy realizes this boss cannot be defeated by people at his level, and that is why the information was released for free. He is also hit in the leg and goes flying to the ground, as he screams desperately, begging to be spared. With fearful eyes, the young man sees the monster approaching. Then the creature says that the worshippers of the false lords must die. Inside, our hero thinks he is going crazy and wonders why these demons talk like that. Someone says hello to everyone, and sounding like they are hosting a show, says that the truth is always beyond, introducing the gossip channel, and introducing herself as Correct, the cute informant from the Correct TV channel. She starts by talking about the war that PASF started, and with a surprised expression says there was a major twist, because Sauron's territory won, making those who invested in PASF very upset. And even Boss Chow must have gone into hiding, because he has been missing ever since. Kiriti then says she has even more news, and that a new demon boss monster appeared during the war. According to the participants, it appeared out of nowhere, destroyed both sides, and vanished. In response, Sauron's territory issued an execution order, offering of course a hefty reward. She says the monster headed toward the kingdom of Pixie, and jokes by asking who will have the honor of defeating the newly discovered monster first. Pointing at the camera, she says the hunt will begin on a first-come, first-served basis. At home, our hero despairs, thinking everything is ruined. He asks if they know how much he suffered during the war, because after PASF, that Japanese group showed up, and when he stops to think about it, he became a demon because of those guys. Ted is upset because, after everything he did, what he gets as a reward is an execution order, and he asks if they think he committed friendly fire because he wanted to. He slumps over his desk in despair, and concludes that he can no longer stay in Sauron's lands. He will need to go to the kingdom of Pixie, which is very close by, because with his specialization level, he will be able to face those Chinese bastards. But he knows that, in the end, if they threaten his family, there will be nothing he can do. Racking his memory, he wonders if that is not the kingdom Brahmin went to. Since he is already there, he could take the items he got and create the third skill orb for Black and White. Trying to cheer himself up falsely, he tells himself it is not the first time he has had bad luck and that by going to another country, things will be fine. Ted considers the routes he could take to the neighboring kingdom, especially since there are still 12 days left before he returns to normal. Our hero notices there are some people walking around there. He knows it is an area people do not usually go to much. Unable to believe it, he notices they are holding a paper with his photo on it, and wonders if the pursuit team has already arrived. Tense, he realizes the bounty on him must be high because of his crime rate, so he wonders what he should do. He does not know how long it will take to get what he needs, and besides, if he interacts with them, more users will come. Then suddenly, he gets an idea. He runs out of his hiding place, thinking the guys will come anyway. And the next moment, he comes across another monster, asking if it is the boss monster of this area. That is the level 300 samurai orc, and it does not seem to be in a good mood. But our demon bear monster is fiercer than it, and fires off his attack. He knows he needs to get ready to go to the other kingdom, and that running into hunters will be inevitable, since he is being mistaken for a monster. And with an evil smile, he wonders if he should not keep the game going until then. Two guys from the earlier guild debate whether or not they need to prepare first, before facing a monster of that level. The commander worries because if they give up, they will lose a lot, and his companion says they should postpone it for now. While he was thinking they should have some advantage, someone interrupts him. A soldier says he has important information, and that the Goblin Mother posted another article about this boss. The commander grows curious about what it is, but gets pretty tense when he sees it. The other guy says that since their guild failed, others will think twice before trying, and that will give them time to prepare. But the commander says it looks like they won't have the luxury of time, leaving the young man confused. With a strange look, he asks whether they shouldn't try to recover from their losses. It seems Ted wants people to think he has a very rare and expensive drop, and he believes that will attract even more people. Now there's bait more valuable than the reward on his head, so let them all come and become his experience points. In a tavern, two friends talk about the new monster and how the Holy Knights got screwed going after it. They heard they're going to try again, now with help from other guilds, but one of them thinks it's stupid, since simply increasing their numbers won't make them succeed. But they believe the guy's pride is hurt, and besides, the reward is really good. The guy almost chokes when he hears his friends say that the boss drops a top-tier material. It's the material used to create unique skills, so it's worth going all out for it, even if things go badly in the process. A hooded person picks up the wanted poster while hearing the pair say that this time, they're going in prepared. The two comment that this time, they brought in all the specialists and raid bosses, and this kind of hunt. Meanwhile, somewhere else, things are getting crazy, and it looks like some players got the worst of it over there. Our demon hero watches as one of them comments that they almost made it. Ted thinks the number of attackers has dropped a lot, and believes it's because the news has already spread well. At first it was difficult, but now that this demonization is dying down, he feels sorry for them and needs to start preparing to enter the pixie realm. To get there, he'll need to pass through a dungeon inside a mountain, and for that he needs two things: the skill to hear better and detect what he can't see, along with lion roar, because since there are many monsters that rely on hearing, that could leave them stunned. To solve the first one, he can just close his eyes and focus on his hearing, and after testing it, he realizes he becomes much more sensitive that way. So the main problem will be the lion roar skill. Nearby, some creatures are eating a little pig, and they seem pretty excited about their hearty lunch. Little do they know that a huge monster is approaching, but even so they seem to sense the danger. However, too late, our hero comes out of stealth and lets out a huge roar at them. The creatures panic and are terrified, immediately running off right after, tripping over one another. He grows thoughtful, figuring it wouldn't work in just 1 or 2 tries. He knows the conditions for obtaining the skill are to surprise monsters and make them flee in fear, but he also knows it's probability-based, so he needs to keep doing it until he gets it. And that is clearly what our hero keeps doing, going around scaring defenseless monsters. Ted starts getting bored of having to do this, wondering whether that really is the condition for getting the skill. He has just maxed out the hearing attribute, but he thinks it's a rare skill, so there's no way to be sure about the conditions. Out of nowhere, he notices a crowd approaching, and realizes it's the people from the same guild he beat down last time. The Holy Knights commander gives the order for everyone to prepare for the raid. Ted feels a bit discouraged, because time is precious, and he needs to deal with this quickly, so he can get back to his business. Some people approach and they seem to be coming from another direction, so he realizes that this time, the guild didn't come alone. They brought mercenary groups to help, along with some guilds our hero has even heard of at some point. Ted knows they all specialize in raid bosses, and it seems they came well prepared this time. He also notices that they're well prepared against a flying boss. Finally, the commander gives the order for everyone to begin the attack as planned. He shouts, saying that this monster is only level 400, and that they don't need to be afraid. Pointing his weapon, he says that today they'll teach the bear Ted that he only got lucky. Tien gets really irritated when he hears "got lucky," and in a rage points his weapon, ready to fire. As he unleashes his powerful attacks, he says that they're the unlucky ones. The commander orders them not to be cowards and to attack, because there's only one boss, and it can only attack in a straight line. So the group around him starts firing at him, while the commander orders them to spread out. Tien realizes the guys are using their brains now, but smiles and says he's not going to stand still. Then an attack barely grazes the commander, leaving him frightened. The group doesn't understand where that attack came from, and from the middle of the brush emerge demonic goblins, summoned by our hero. They come flying through, firing at the army guys. Desperate, one of the guys suggests they retreat and forget about the reward. But the commander knows the guild spent all the money they had, and that he can't run away like this, so he leaps toward the monster with his weapon in hand, shouting for it to give him its heart. Suddenly, a projectile hits his foot, and he goes flying, crashing to the ground. Stammering, he tells the vice commander to draw the monster's attention for a bit, and while he was saying that if he could get close enough, he'd handle it, something makes him fall silent. He looks over the battlefield and sees everything completely destroyed. A goblin keeps firing non-stop, while the commander spends his final moments there on the ground, cursing and saying the game is broken. In an instant, the battle was over, and our MC gained even more experience. Tien thinks he lost control for a moment and used too much force, so he needs to get the lion roar skill soon and get out of there. But someone else approaches, drawing our hero's attention. He doesn't understand why she came alone now, of all times, when everyone is already dead, but something feels off. So for now he decides to keep pretending to be a demon out of control. So he shouts like a proper demon, asking how such an insolent human dares approach like this. Without answering, the woman takes out some kind of wand, and from it, several roots spread all across the area. She traps the two of them inside a circle, and our MC realizes she's a nature-type sorceress. And of all the problems he could have, a nature sorceress in the middle of a forest is one of the worst. He gets a little worried, wondering who this person is. As she uses her magic, Ted seems to recognize her, but he doesn't want to believe it. Afraid, he thinks she's a ranker bounty hunter. The daughter of great nature, Ellie, a level 613 sorceress. Tid realizes he's attracting famous bounty hunters, thinking this might be a bit too much to handle. The first time they met, he didn't really understand what her deal was. She had gone to hunt a boss and they ended up meeting, so the girl suggested they hunt together. But then this weird girl suddenly attacked him, and after that they always fought whenever they ran into each other, and their encounters ended with 4 wins and 4 losses. He knows it's impossible to escape her, May, but now he's stronger in this demon form, and uses his movement skill. With a huge leap, he heads toward the girl, targeting her, and thinking that today he'll definitely win. Then our hero unleashes his lightning-charged attack, but she doesn't seem shaken by it at all. Then a huge explosion happens. The very next moment, Ted realizes the girl's abilities have also grown since they last fought, since she managed to use teleportation with no casting time at all. Chasing after the girl, he thinks she's underestimating him way too much. Then he catches up to her quickly, already preparing another attack, and with that the girl starts noticing some patterns. She notices similarities to her archenemy, because she has memorized all his movements. As the monster comes running toward her, she tries to trap him again, but Ted manages to avoid her attack by jumping, only to be met with another attack using wood. He is forced to dodge again, and this time it was close. Then he realizes this won't be easy at all, and fires while deciding to try to keep his distance from her. He gets a little uneasy while his opponent summons a bunch of Ents surrounding him, ready to attack. Ted tries to deal with it, but realizes it's useless, so he summons his goblins, and a bunch of demonic goblins appear in the area. The creatures fire non-stop, while our protagonist takes the chance to get out of there with chunks of wood flying everywhere. He knows that even at a high level, a sorcerer is physically weak, and if he lands one solid hit on her, he believes that will be enough. Once again his opponent traps him with her magic. Ted gets irritated for having let his guard down. Several vines bind him from all sides, and our hero wonders if the girl changed her attack pattern. Ted realizes she has gotten much stronger while continuing to use her spells. Then that enormous thing falls on top of him, leaving the whole area completely wrecked. Coming out from under all that, our hero rises roaring, and saying this isn't right, and on top of that, he nearly scares a passing monster to death. Our MC wonders what is going on there. He decides to check the menu and is quite satisfied with what he sees. Nearby, his enemy walks around the area looking for him. She senses something approaching and manages to turn around in time, only to see our hero coming at her and using Lion Roar on her. The girl feels the effects immediately, and Ted takes advantage of that moment. He focuses the power of his weapon right in front of his paralyzed enemy. This was the biggest crisis he's had since becoming this demon. Then the girl interrupts him by saying that makes it 5-4. She smiles and says, "We'll meet again, Ted." Our hero is quite surprised by that, but doesn't hesitate, firing his weapon at her. With that he gains a few more levels, and wonders if she recognized him because of the way he fights. Although he knows she isn't a gossip, he believes it's time to leave this area, since it may become more and more dangerous. He already got the skill he needed, and now considers whether he should leave as soon as his demon form disappears tomorrow. Sometime later, Ted returns to his normal form. Our MC is happy, because he got a bunch of items from the guys he killed, besides having reached the level. Looking at all that, he realizes he has become much more powerful than he was before the reset. At the rate he's getting stronger, he won't have much trouble hunting alone even in hell. It's time to evolve the goblins again, and he decides to get stronger before reaching the Pixie Kingdom. Once there, he will look for his friend Brahmin and ask him to create a new rank D skill orb. With everything decided, our protagonist moves forward to become more and more powerful and be able to take revenge. He finally arrives at the dungeon, and as he walks inside, he realizes just how dark it is in there. On top of that, he can't use light magic or even a torch there. That's because a black dragon at the top absorbs all the light, and because of that, the inside is an endless darkness. But Tian knew that and came prepared. He came equipped with his presence and Lion Roar skills, so he lets out his roar, and the sound spreads throughout the whole place. Then he makes use of his other skill, listening with intense focus, and like sonar, everything starts taking shape around him. Now he can get a sense of the entire area around him. But of course he didn't learn Lion Roar just to find his way. He was also thinking about the monsters crawling around in there. Ted finds those creatures disgusting. He knows they're just mobs, but there's one annoying thing about them. If they're attacked, the dragon wakes up, and players level 300 or below become afflicted by the dragon's magic. It would be great to turn those things into experience, but dealing with a dragon at a low level is pretty troublesome. The Lion Roar skill doesn't deal damage, it only stuns, so it doesn't alert the dragon to anything. If he uses the skill to follow the path, he should be able to get through without any problems. But that would also be a waste. So next, he summons his silver goblins, but they seem pretty frightened by all that darkness. Ted tells them not to be afraid and to move forward with him, shooting everything along the way. He thinks this is a dungeon full of malicious restrictions, but avoiding them is also a master's trick. Our hero moves forward, ordering his goblins to wreak havoc. They keep going, taking out every monster in their path and leveling up because of it. It seems his idea was really good, and now they just have to keep moving forward the same way. Ted sees a light at the end of the tunnel and believes he has finally found the way out of that place. He gets really excited about the exit, but also pretty annoyed that it took so long to cross such a short path. Still, it's all fine, since he didn't run into any major problems, and even recorded everything, so next time it'll be faster. The goblins don't seem very excited though, and our MC realizes they're exhausted, but tries to motivate them by saying they're almost at the end. However, as soon as they reach the supposed exit, they find something very different. Tien has no idea what it is, but wonders why anyone would make such a huge pile like that inside the dungeon. Without paying attention, Ted fires something off, and a huge creature with an evil-looking face appears right in front of him. He gets startled by it and wonders if it might be a familiar, while the monster hovers there menacingly. The goblins don't hesitate for a second, and unload on that thing. Everything indicates that the monster is done for. Tien is impressed that a level 300 familiar got vaporized by his goblins. Anyway, if there was a familiar guarding the place, those boxes must belong to someone. He believes that since they killed the monster, whoever it belongs to has already been alerted, so there is no harm in taking a look. When he opens it, he's surprised, because he finds a bunch of military rations inside. He doesn't understand why anyone would have piles of that inside the mountain. He believes that if they were for consumption, they wouldn't be there. So it may be that they were secretly diverted supplies. Of course, if it were anything legitimate, it wouldn't be there. So he sees no other choice but to take it all for himself. Drooling with anticipation, he thinks he'll have to become a righteous thief. Even if they taste bad, the main ingredient is magic stones. If he sells them, he believes he'll recover what he lost in the war he fought in. Tien thinks he got incredibly lucky, but something there seems off. As expected, high-level guilds have lots of resources, and he's going to take it all. He's curious to know how much gold he'll be able to sell everything for. But to his surprise, the menu shows that he has no free space in his inventory. He's devastated, thinking about his bad luck and how wasteful it is to have to leave everything there. He cries in despair, thinking about how much all of this must be worth. Discouraged, Ted decides to focus on getting out of that place, while his goblins are still going wild. But the menu shows something unexpected. The goblin's orb is ready to evolve. Could that be good news? A blue energy surrounds the goblins, and they panic. But Tien knows the time has come, and this time it's not bad at all. He's finally going to evolve to rank B, and wonders what will happen now. A little uneasy, he wonders if it won't just be another goblin of a different color again. But not this time. And excited, he celebrates that his little goblins have become some really fierce ogres. Well, at least that's what his imagination is hoping for. And Ted waits eagerly for his ogres. But what he gets is some golden little goblins, looking like gold. And judging by our MC's face, he doesn't seem very satisfied. Even though his goblins are really excited, Tien can only suffer, thinking he's an idiot for expecting more. At that moment, out of nowhere, the terminal opens, showing that he has met the qualifications to face Shamshan, the Sun Liberation Shamshan. He appeared when Tien upgraded his weapon to +19, and he gave our MC the power of Hexagram Constellation. Ted thought he had disappeared after the contract, but during the demonization, he realized that he had been sleeping inside him. Other than the Will of the Sun skill appearing as unopened, there is no further information about it. Ted thinks he'll be able to get more information soon, so he closes the menu to look at his goblins, all excited and hopping around. He was a little disappointed that they weren't ogres, but that doesn't matter much now. The skill options open up so he can choose one more, and Ted wonders if there's something powerful, like making the goblins mimic his movements. Our hero notices there is something like that, but it's weaker than his own power, so he decides to pass. Another one gives a 5% bonus to some attributes, which seems pretty small, so he moves on to the last option. This one increases their attributes and experience when they eat something, and it seems very promising. Normally proficiency is based on use, but in the case of summons, it's based on the summons level, but they only get 10% of his experience. So our hero starts thinking about how he could maximize that gain. He thinks it took him 9 years to reach level 600 before, so it'll take even longer now. He finally decides, and now he needs to find food to feed his troop, which seems to be starving. But at that moment, he remembers that a little ways back, there were boxes and more boxes of military rations. Even though he can't take them, he can let them eat everything and get rid of the evidence. So without any more messing around, he starts unlocking all the boxes. Tired, our protagonist finishes and gives the order for his golden goblins to attack. They eat like there's no tomorrow, and in the process, they gain a few attribute points. The process is random, so some gain strength while others gain intelligence. Ted is pleased to see that his goblins are eating well, and he believes that now that they've evolved, each of them will develop a personality of their own. First, that one over there, who even while suffering, eats spicy food. He was kind of stupid, and now he's definitely going to become stupid. Now that other one over there is eating things for agility and perception. Ted believes that since he used to stay closer, he's prioritizing attributes related to ranged attacks. As for the other two, they'll raise random attributes with whatever is left over. Lastly, there's the one who's lowest in the hierarchy. At that moment, The goblin sees something fall and throws himself after it, eating like crazy when he manages to grab it. The other goblin doesn't really understand what just happened, but Tien knows he's the craftiest of them all, wondering if they'll really become stronger. Satisfied, he notices that all three ate everything, and their attributes went up a lot. One increased in a very balanced way, while the one beside him focused on agility. That third one gained quite a few intelligence points, and with that, developed mana, making Ted wonder if he'll be able to use magic soon too. Satisfied, he decides that he'll soon give him a weapon with an orb, and realizes that before long, they'll be as efficient as a player. With that, he says goodbye to the goblins, and says he'll see them later. Ted finally arrives in Pixie territory, dismissing his goblins. At that moment, a red menu shows that he is an illegal immigrant, and that his crime rating has gone up even more. But regardless, he needs to rest. However, he notices some guys approaching that place. The guys are confused by the bear mask, and our boy notices they're two very highly ranked Japanese players. There's even an NPC there, but all the players are ranked in over level 600. Ted wonders why these guys are there, and then one of them says, "Finally, you showed your face." Our protagonist chokes up when he sees the guys approaching. That is Musashi, a level 703 player and Japan's second-ranked player, and he asks if our MC saw some boxes in there. Passing by them a little tense, he just says he didn't see anything. Ted thinks he got unlucky again, because not only did he get involved with a big guild, he ran into them right at the exit. Musashi asks why our MC doesn't look up while he lies, and when he does, Ted realizes he's being watched through the eyes of the familiar he killed, and that it shares its vision with its master. At that moment, he realizes that the familiar he killed earlier left an almost imperceptible curse on him. Musashi asks a guy who looks like a guard to verify the truth of the bear friend's words, so he uses an interrogation skill to get some information about our hero. And one very relevant detail is his crime rate of 138,000. So the guard says he's very suspicious. The guy suggests it would be best for everyone if they check the boxes inside the dungeon, but at that moment Tien uses his movement skill. He shoots upward, and immediately aims his weapon at the group left on the ground. Irritated, he says there's no way he's going with them, and fires his concentrated lightning shot at that group. From the air, Tien charges his weapon toward that entire group. Down below, one of them readies his bow, while the powerful attack heads toward him. That archer uses a movement skill and barely manages to dodge. Even so, he gets hit in the shoulder. The lightning spreads across the whole area. Then the projectile continues toward Musashi, who grabs his sword, and without any difficulty at all, nullifies that attack. Musashi tells the archer to go check the rations, while he laments how much health he lost, and orders the rest of the group to stay with him, so they can deal with the bear immediately. Ted gets a little tense as the situation starts to unfold. He believes that if it were just the redhead, he might have a chance, but everyone around him is ranked too. And to make matters worse, one of them is a guard, because if he's killed by a guard, he'll respawn in prison. Desperate, he thinks he'd be stuck in prison for about 4 years and absolutely cannot let that happen. Ted knows those are the strongest members of the guild, and that they should be competing against each other, so he doesn't understand why they're gathered there. He decides that his top priority is to get the hell out of there. He comes up with a whole strategy, and realizes, much to his dismay, that he'll have to bet his life on it. He uses everything he has to get out of there, with the gang close on his heels. Worried, our boy realizes those guys are really fast, so he fires upward, trying to buy some time. And Musashi doesn't really understand why the kid is doing that. Looks like he gets it now. It seems that huge rock came loose, and it comes crashing down toward the group, catching them by surprise. The swordsman draws his weapon with a series of quick movements. He destroys that rock. Without wasting any time, they keep moving forward, and Musashi gets excited that our hero isn't just some ordinary thief. Then a green energy spreads around him. Calmer now, he realizes he managed to put some distance between them, but when he looks back, he sees Musashi practically flying toward him. The swordsman gets excited to see how far the guy can go. Ted braces himself as the guy approaches. He thought he'd have more time, and now realizes he's surrounded. Once again, he assesses his situation and comes to a conclusion. The best thing to do is summon his golden goblins and go into battle. At that moment, Musashi is quite surprised to find a musketeer who summons goblins, and he remembers Tanichi saying that the guy who ruined the war was a musketeer who summoned goblins. Next, he strikes at our hero, who moves quickly to avoid the attack. Tig gives thanks, saying that if the goblin buys him enough time to escape, that's already great. With that, he zips right past the swordsman, but the guy isn't messing around, and asks if our hero really thinks he'd escape with that trick. But when the weapon reaches its target, there's another golden goblin scared shitless. Musashi is surprised that the goblin is surrendering, while Ted, desperate, wonders about that behavior after it evolved, because he told it to block with its body, not surrender. But it seems the goblin, acting all cute, came up with a plan, which Musashi clearly didn't fall for, and Ted runs off, grateful he wasn't betrayed. The mage from that group tells Lord Musashi that he'll take care of the bear, then uses his spells against him. He quadruples his ice magic, and Ted curses the situation, because this NPC is very high level. Our protagonist realizes there are too many attacks to dodge, but the goblin seems excited. It steps forward and bites the magic, while Ted scolds it, because that's not food, but takes advantage of the situation to make a run for it. The gang realizes the escape is still going on, and goes after him, commenting that he's a bear in a trap. Tien manages to reach the edge of that place, and now all he has to do is jump, but he finds something unexpected there. Down below there's an entire military camp, and our hero notices the flag of the Kingdom of Pixie. Now he understands why the guild's ranked members took part in the Sauron War. It's because they're all gathered there. Our hero had heard that the Kingdom of Pixie was invaded by Japanese players, but all this movement isn't normal. In his view, the kingdom was taken over by the top 5 ranked players, and is now preparing for all-out war. Tense about the situation, he realizes that if he went down there, he'd be massacred by the top 5 ranked players. Musashi approaches, saying that the little thief saw all this after all. He notices our MC was surprised, and admits he thought Ted knew all about it, and was sabotaging them by stealing the rations. Our hero says he didn't know anything about it, and Musashi says they can talk about it later, calmly. The swordsman says he really likes duels and is disappointed because whenever a meta appears, everyone else ends up copying it. But he says Ted is special in that regard, leaving our bear embarrassed. Musashi says he's in charge of combat, and although his guild isn't among the top 5, he believes it has the most potential for the future. But a guild needs good fighters, and Ted asks if this has turned into a recruitment pitch. Our hero thinks that at level 400, it would take about 20 days to revive. He could throw himself down and die, but he believes the swordsman wouldn't allow that. He believes Musashi would catch him and hand him over to the guard, so in that case, he'll do everything he can. So he flips him off and says the guild can kiss his ass. Then Musashi says he'll pretend he didn't see that response, and that when he's been locked up for years they'll have plenty of time to interrogate him. He launches an attack at our hero, and as he approaches, he tells him to remember this day when he's regretting everything. Ted dodges as best he can and thinks he needs to create some distance, so he uses his movement skill. Musashi praises his instincts, but with a series of quick movements, adds that the real fight starts now. Tien was already expecting all this pressure from Japan's number 2, and even while dodging, he still gets grazed. The group's support wants to help the swordsman, but he's interrupted, because his partner says Musashi hates interference, and adds that the guy is more fired up than ever. The guy says he heard our MC was the monster of the Sauron War, and wants to know how long he can keep dodging like this. Unleashing a flurry of attacks, he tells the boy to show his real moves. Ted starts to feel the wounds, but Musashi realizes that he is skillfully avoiding the critical points of his attacks. He says he would even praise him for it. But a gunner could never defeat a swordsman like him, and it seems Tien realizes he really won't be able to dodge this. The attack lands squarely on his shoulder. As a huge crater opens up in the ground, our hero is left with 10% HP, even after activating Indomitable. Musashi doesn't know what the guy is planning, because he is sure he lowered his guard between attacks. But even so, he still hasn't received any counterattack. But he thinks it doesn't matter, because if Indomitable was activated, it means he has at least 5% HP left, so he gets ready to continue the attack. He quickly charges toward our big bear, and the attack is solid, but Tien manages to avoid it. And this time he has something planned. As he points his black and white at the swordsman, Musashi thinks it's time to attack again, and wonders if he really wouldn't let this one slip by. As he watches the bear charging up his attack, he hopes he goes all out. The swordsman is disappointed, because the attack is slow and still leaves him exposed. He dodges easily, thinking he could strike his chest with no chance of him evading. He remembers that Ruri and Tanichi were defeated by him, and grows full of anticipation. But in the end he finds him pretty annoying to fight and decides to finish him off right now. But while dodging the attack, our hero says, "That's it." Smiling behind the mask, he says he should go ahead and finish this. Musashi doesn't understand and turns to see where he aimed, realizing that the attack is heading straight for the party member who is a soldier. The beam pierced through the whole group and went straight for that guy, killing him. That NPC falls to the ground, coming apart, while Ted thinks that even if he kept fighting, it would be hard to defeat Musashi because of the level difference. But one shot is enough for an NPC, and he still gets XP even while falling to his death. He reaches level 400 as he slams into the ground. Ted is confused, because he thinks he saw something come out of that corpse. But that doesn't matter, because as soon as he falls, he will be quickly eliminated. He gets annoyed that they want to kill someone who was just minding his own business. But we know it was because of the rations he stole, right? Accepting his death, he thinks that when he revives he'll show them, and remembers that he just leveled up while falling. He asks them to get it over with, because he wants to die before something different happens. But at that moment, a rift opens in space. And of course our lucky hero heads toward that hole. He realizes he almost died, but now he is in that place full of bodies from before. He thinks he almost died, and still wasted time, and his copy appears again, saying that he sacrificed himself to obtain the hexagram. Tien realizes that Samxian only appears in his own form, and once again he can't speak, though he would like to ask him a few things. The guy speaks in a somewhat poetic way, and says something about using him as a vessel to draw closer to the desires of the gods, but he explains that this process will not happen naturally, and now that he is qualified, the first moment has arrived. Tien doesn't really understand what he's saying and thinks he needs to stop some kind of festival, besides being tested like when he obtained the hexagram constellation. The guy says that even if he breaks his own body, our hero needs to contain him. He realizes he needs to do 40 quests in 40 days, and if he fails, his connection with Sam Xian will be suspended. But it's an S-rank quest, so of course our hero is going to accept it. The menu disappears, and the entity says that's it. As an energy rises in the area, he says they should begin. A dome of black energy appears in the area, with a current of wind swirling around it. As several monsters appear, Ted thinks 40 days is better than wasting time in the underworld, and aiming with his powerful weapon, he concludes, "I'll crush all of you." A bunch of monsters appear and charge at our protagonist. Without wasting time, he takes aim and starts firing. Nearby, a goblin is caught off guard, and by the time he notices, the monster is already on top of him. But something catches the monster's attention, and it is completely smashed into the ground. The bizarre part is that it was by one of its own. The guy must have been in a hurry. Our hero jumps, using it for support and launching himself into the air to reach the creature's face. Then he aims right at its snout. He concentrates his powerful lightning attack and fires at that crowd of monsters. Ted breathes a sigh of relief, wondering if 30 days have already passed in there. He has fought for so long that he has lost track of time. With 10 more days, it will all be over. The entity appears, saying that the 30th day ends there, and tells him to return to rest in his body and his original world, so his original body will not weaken. Ted laments, while the terminal shows that his playtime has come to an end. Somewhat unwillingly, he gets out of his capsule, because the game limits playtime, so it won't cause physical problems. He remembers the entity telling him to play only 10 hours a day during the quests, but he knows there's nothing he can do, because the mission requires 40 consecutive days. He sits down in front of his TV to see the latest news, and notices that a war has started between the Kingdom of Pixie and Karen, and things are moving really fast. And as soon as the mission ends, he'll have to dive headfirst into that too, because he thinks he can profit a lot from it. But something leaves him surprised. Quite shocked, Ted realizes that the Kingdom of Karen has already been occupied by the Kingdom of Pixie. He can't believe how quickly it happened. The remaining guilds had to retreat, and under the orders of the King of Karen, a suicide squad was formed, and it was called Karen Walker. According to the media outlets that analyzed the incident, the Kingdom of Pixie failed to conquer the duchy, and Ted feels relieved that the royal family was not completely wiped out. He notices that everything is in complete chaos, but of course he would be furious too if his fortress had been taken like that. He's only upset that he couldn't take part, even though he has no fondness for the Kingdom of Karen. More important are the great enemies he has now, and he may need to flee to another region. Then he notices that someone posted something else there, a kind of investigation about NPCs that do not die. He becomes interested in the subject, and sees a video where an NPC does not die. After the investigation, it seems it is not the effect of a bug. It just so happens to be that mage who was in Musahi's group, but Ted is sure he gained experience points when he killed him. Well, if this is not the fault of a bug, our MC believes those guys from the Kingdom of Pixie must be doing something. But in the next moment he realizes something. That guild, Nightwalkers, is his brother's guild. He heard they suffered heavy damage in PASF's surprise attack, and believes they formed an alliance with Karen. Ted told him about the war, but did not contact him after that. He believes his mother and father must be worried. He remembers seeing trophies scattered on the floor, and someone telling him not to think negatively, and to listen. Then, wondering whether he could not consider it one more time. Tien gets irritated by this. Besides knowing this is crazy, he moves the mouse to Radisa TV's email. He knows it is suicide to get involved in things like this, especially after hiding his identity and planning revenge. But he decides to give it a try, and sends the email to Radisa TV, as he had planned. Our hero is quite tense waiting in a cafe. In the end, he decided to do it. It had been quite a long time since he had gotten dressed up and gone out like this. Ted receives a message, because the guy from Radisa TV is going to be late, but he has plenty of time these days. When, all of a sudden, someone approaches. The girl pulls out a chair, while he wonders who she could be, since he found her somewhat familiar. Then she puts her hand in front, covering the rest of her body, and he is startled when he realizes she is Ellie, that nature mage who duels with him in the game. Ted wonders why she is there, and thinks he does not need to speak to her first. But already seated, the girl asks if he is Ted, nearly making our protagonist choke. The girl says it is a pleasure to meet him in person, and introduces herself as Ellie's player. He wipes himself off, introducing himself as well, and thinks she seems much more normal than in the game. Our hero thought she represented Radisa TV, but the girl explains that she is there to sign a contract just like him. Our hero says he understands, wondering if she was also discovered as a creator. In any case, he knows she has the recognition and talent for it. Tien wonders why she is trying to do streams after playing solo all this time. Ellie gets a little embarrassed and apologizes for attacking him recently, and confesses that she did not know he had become a demon. Our MC laughs and says it is fine, since this is a game, but asks whether she had not attacked him even knowing who he was. Then she confesses that she did not want to lose that monster that time, and our hero, smiling, confesses the same. Tien thinks the girl does not seem like a bad person. Now why? While in the game she is a hunter obsessed with hunting. In real life her image is much cuter. Suddenly, a breathless guy arrives, apologizing to both of them for the delay. He introduces himself as Peterson, and says he is from Rudisa TV, and so suggests they start talking about the contract. The guy explains the advantages and benefits of the contract in exchange for them creating content for the platform. Then, when asked, our hero explains that there are 2 more things he needs. He remembers his channel being blocked through legal means, so he asks for a new account to upload with. Giving a thumbs up, the guy confirms that is easy, and says he will give him a dedicated Rudisa account. Then the second thing our MC wanted was for his video to be shown on the site's main channel, and the guy admits he plans to put both of them on the front page, but our hero interrupts him saying he did not explain it properly. Ted explains that it would be to put up his main video only 1 week later. The guy thinks that is a bit complicated because of the schedule, so he asks whether our hero has some kind of commitment that week. When Ted, excited, talks about what he will do that day, the guy almost loses it from excitement. Sometime later, a rift opens and our big bear is back, and he has finally finished the 40 days of endless quests. The entity had said something poetic like freeing those who are trapped, and also those who were oppressed. The quest is for him to follow in the entity's footsteps while it was alive, and this is an opportunity for him to increase the duration of the connection. Connection was exactly the skill he gained from those 40 days of quests. He can borrow Samshion's power for 10 seconds, and if he already became insanely strong with a lesser demon, he thinks he'll become invincible with the power of that entity. Ted knows he can already defeat higher-level players, but with this connection he could take on both Chinese guilds at once. There were 2 reasons why he had been cautious until now. First, he didn't have the ability to protect himself, but now he has more than enough power to do that. And the second was his family being at risk, but now, with his brother leading Karen Walker, that danger no longer exists. Taking that mask, he begins to remove it, and now he can finally reveal himself. Now, moving on to the next step of the plan, Ted gets excited and decides he will look for Brahmin. Meanwhile, in the kingdom of Pixie, there is a city always covered by the ashes of an active volcano, and that is why there is a barrier. This city is considered a paradise for creators and builders. Ted watches from afar with a magnifying glass and confirms that it really was just as he had heard. The information said it was covered in ash, and based on that it seems he is in the right place. Entering stealth, our boy decides to move forward. Getting in was not a problem for him, but how is he going to find Brahmin now? Considering that there is no information about him in the community, it seems he lives in hiding, and deliberately does not reveal his identity. Our hero knows he has no choice but to search the hard way. Then, all of a sudden, he arrives at a suspicious place. Ted thinks it looks like the right place, but there is a sign saying it is closed for business. Normally our MC would investigate the surroundings first, but since he is short on time, it will have to be this way. He takes several tools and uses a thief skill to unlock the door. However, he keeps failing miserably again and again. Exhausted and defeated, he falls to the ground when his last tool breaks. His stealth also wears off, and he thinks the door should have opened already. So judging by the difficulty, he believes he is in the right place. Our hero thinks it would be a little wrong to just break it down, when, all of a sudden, the door swings open, and a huge hand appears. Ted jumps back, dodging while pointing his weapon in that direction. A booming voice asks, who is causing a commotion in his shop? And all excited, Brahman appears, saying it is Ted, his benefactor.